What's up, guys? Compound Coalition video. I have Instructor Z here. We have known each other for a little while online. I've known of you for several years because of Brandel here. That's where I first heard about you and Carl and all. And we chatted back and forth, and I just started hitting up some of your comments, and lo and behold, here you are. We're pretty close, but we've never, I don't think, crossed paths.
You thought I was Asian.
I did think you were Asian. I don't know why. I shouldn't have told him. I don't know why I had that in my head.
I don't mind. They're these slanted eyes. I don't know where they come from.
So, where'd you start? Like, what when you were in high school, what'd you think you wanted to do? What'd you want to be?
Bro, it's not a great story. I didn't give a shit about anything.
Where'd you grow up?
I was Greenville, South Carolina. Pretty big now. A lot of gentrification there. It's one of the largest or fastest growing cities. I know Clarksville's been on that list where I live now. Greenville's been on that list in the past decade or so. Fastest growing cities. But it's got a lot of surrounding areas. I didn't finish high school. I was lowborn shithead. All right? I didn't care about anything. I played sports, did whatever I wanted. Lived with my grandparents, lived with my mother for a little while, was in a children's home for a little while. Lived with my dad for maybe a year. Lived with my grandparents for the majority of the time, that's them. My papa and my granny, they passed away soon after COVID. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Never thought about going to the Army till the day I decided to go to the Army.
What caused that? Like, what happened that day?
I was involved with a lot of people that were just like me, lowborn, taking advantage of everybody they came in contact with. I messed with drugs a lot. Probably had depression issues anyway, and then messing with cocaine and stuff like that didn't help with my depression, because when you come down off that, it's like ultimate depression. And I just seen the circle I was in, everybody just fucked everybody over. I think that's common in the dark world of drugs and fucking thug activity. You just fuck everybody over. There's no loyalty, really, because people are so broken. You just fuck everybody over because you got such a sense of survive yourself, you know? But it broke my heart. And I said, fuck it, I don't want to be here. I'm leaving. And I just knew I couldn't do it on my own. You know, I had to go somewhere, change something. Something had to make me do something. And I just knew that. I don't think I was that wise, but it turned out to be a wise decision. I just had to displace myself and be around something else. So I went to the military, or I went to the recruiting station, and they're all beside each other. I think for the most part, that's typical. In my city, that's how they were. And I went to the Marines, of course, because if you got something to prove as a young man, I think everybody looked at Marines on commercials and were like, yeah, that's the uniform. I'm going to be a badass, because obviously I'm a badass, right?
You got that poster.
Right. So I went in there, and they wasn't impressed with me. I was telling them, you know, I've got my GED, or I was getting my GED at the time, with the general education diploma when you drop out of high school. And they were like, no. I guess they picked and choose theirs a little bit better. You got to at least not be a criminal and not have a GED, or maybe, I don't know what the deal was at that time. So I come outside, and the Army recruiter was outside smoking a cigarette, and he was like, you know, we pay you more. And I was like, all right. So I went in there and talked to him, and he was like, yeah, we'll get you started. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was working at a steel fabrication company, cutting up fiberglass and fucking cutting steel at the time. And he told me about the ASVAB test, and I was like, all right, I'll fucking do it. And he's like, you can study and all this shit. And I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'll study. At that time, you know, we didn't have fucking cell phones. Mm-hmm. And I had a pager, but I didn't give the recruiter my fucking pager number. So he had to call my grandma's house to get in touch with me. So we would go like weeks without talking, and he'd just tell me a date or call and leave something on my grandma's answer machine and be like, hey, we need you to fucking do this at this date. I'd call him back like, what are we doing? You know, you got to pass a piss test at some point. You got to do an ASVAB. So I showed up one day after work, did the ASVAB, passed the ASVAB, and I didn't know what a GT score was. I made a 110 on my GT exactly, which used to be like the standard for doing any job in the Army was a 110 GT score. And I don't know what the overall score was. And they told me, you got a 110, so you can pretty much do any job. And I was like, what's the guys with the guns? And they're like, yo, you want the infantry? We'll get you a job in the infantry. I'm like, yeah, if I can. So I did do all that, drank a big gallon of water with some fucking bleach in it to fucking clear my piss out when I went to my MEP station in Columbia, South Carolina. And passed the piss test, apparently. Passed the physical. I was supposed to ship out, didn't get shipped out right away because something changed in the schedule. So I went back home, then came back, and the rest is history. I went to fucking Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training and the infantry in Fort Campbell, and then eventually went to SF.
So the Rangers was in the middle there somewhere?
I went to Ranger school, but I wasn't in the Ranger regiment, which is different.
Did you do any deployments as infantry or before SF?
Yeah, I did 3 deployments in the infantry. I went to Kosovo around 99, 2000, in that time frame, which was before 9/11, obviously, and that was a peace enforcement mission. Basically, we acted like police.
Didn't we have a stealth plane shot down in that area around that time somewhere?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember all of them. I didn't have the bandwidth for that type of shit. I was focused on me and mine. But yeah, I went there, Kosovo, did 7 months, came back, went to Ranger school. Then 9/11 happened, went to Afghanistan in 2001, was there for 7 months, came back, went to airborne school, did some other shit, then went to Iraq in 2003, right, when we decided that we need to go to war with them, I guess, and stayed there for a year. And then when I came back from Iraq, I was an E6 in the infantry at that time, going on about 5 years or so in the infantry or in the Army. Came back and said, I'm leaving. I'm going to go to selection for Special Forces. I always had ambition, you know. Once I got in the Army, it was all ambition driven. Like, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this. I got to do this. It was all about determining my value, though. The Army, as good as it was for me changing, like, took me out of my situation, I was still me. So I was still looking for value, which was looking for superficial value, to be honest. So I was driven. I was an athlete, good at being physical, so you do well in the Army, in the infantry, in the combat arms if you're just a physical person. They give you a benefit of the doubt. You don't have to be good at leading necessarily. You don't have to be good at any one fucking thing. I mean, I worked to be generally good, but if you're a strong person, you know, because it's such a quick progression for combat arms. Like, nobody's got time to fucking figure things out. You figure it out when you're doing it. And it's like, if you want to take charge and you want to be mean and an asshole and be strong and mean, that'll get you by. Strong and mean will do it. So, super ambitious. Just wanted to prove myself more and more and more.
Did you make it through selection? Was that easy or was that difficult? Or
I think it was relatively difficult for most people. I mean, but for me, physical stuff was my forte. So for me, it was relatively not easy. I mean, it was challenging, but to me, it wasn't a challenge that I shied away from, that type of challenge, you know?
Were you a weapons sergeant or what'd you do?
I was a 18 Charlie, which is an engineer sergeant.
Okay.
Which is explosives. You build stuff, you blow stuff up.
Is that what's on your arm there?
This? No, this is just a metaphoric DNA.
Got
like
it.
Family,
okay.
Wife, name, DNA,
Got it.
crest, initials. Excuse me. Yeah. So it was relatively easy. Ranger school was hard when I went to it because I was undisciplined. I was getting by off fucking what was easy to me. So we went to Ranger school, hit the wall in the third phase of Ranger school, which is the last phase in Florida, because I was fucking money. until then. Some people break down in mountains. I went to Florida, and I fucking was tired. My body was tired, and I fucking slept. Got in trouble for falling asleep on a mission and failed the 3rd phase of Ranger School and had to recycle the 3rd phase. And me, being the fragile fucking psyche that I had, and the low self-esteem that I carried with me, broke my fucking heart. I was on the phone, on a payphone, calling my wife, crying like a little bitch because I fucking failed something, because I couldn't handle failure. So that was hard for me, because essentially it pushed me to a challenge that I hadn't faced yet, and I wasn't ready to face. So Ranger School was hard that way, because I failed, got over it, passed it, still came back ashamed because I had to recycle something. Ain't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous? Like, I just didn't cut myself a break. And but selection, when that came, selection was easier than fucking Ranger School, in my opinion, because I could fucking eat, and I didn't get nobody took sleep from me. So the physical part was pretty easy. They do have a land nav portion that's pretty hard, but I mean, I was pretty good at land nav by then. I'd already done EIB, which is the expert infantry badge. I've already done land nav overseas in general. I've fucking already been to Ranger School, where you got to do your land nav. I've taught my soldiers land navigation because I was a leader by then. So the land nav part, even though it was longer and more strenuous type course, was fairly easy. I mean, just don't quit. I'm going to fucking do it. I'm determined in my head to do it. And I think that's willpower and the heart to keep on going, which wherever it stems from, fear of failure or whatever, I had it in me. I was going to drive and fucking try to get something done. So selection, not that bad.
When did you get over that fear of failure and that ego and all that? Like, where
I
was
still
that
hadn't fully got over it.
Okay.
I still haven't. I would say since I hit my 40s, and we just talked about our age, you said you're 52.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45, going on 46. Probably in my 40s, I've grown the most. I've learned the most since I've been out of the military. Just being forced to deal with life without the crutch of, or hiding behind the veil of, I'm somebody, so you can't fucking question me, and having to face yourself. So I still deal with it, but I know how to cope with it. You know, I tell myself my whole philosophy's changed. I know who I am now and who I'm not. And I see everyone through the lens that I see myself, which is, you're you, and you got these things and these things and these things, the same as any human. Maybe this is prominent, maybe this is not prominent in you. We talked about relationships before we got on the recording, and everybody needs something, and you just try to be disciplined about how you go about it, so it can be honorable, or whatever honorable means to you. So I know that about me. So I don't get super excited about who I am, and I don't get super sad about who I am, you know? Like, and I don't do for anybody else either.
Your wife, you said when you had to recycle Ranger School, you called your wife. That's the same. You're still married to the same lady?
Yeah. Be 25 years this year. We actually celebrated 25 years last year because both of us can't count, apparently. It's 25 years this year. And we're married to the same woman, and she is... she's put up with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of shit. Because I'm a fucking idiot. I mean...
Did you know her before you joined the Army?
We went to high school together. We both didn't finish. She got kicked out dealing with my friends. She was in the car with my friends when some of my friends shot a gun off at the school, acting crazy. So she got kicked out being associated with that. And I was out by then too. She's like 2 years younger than me, less than 2 years younger than me. But we went to the same high school. We ran in the same circles. Didn't really know each other in high school. I was already out when I got to know her. And then when we met then, we started dating before I went to the military. Got in the military, and I got married when I was 21, when I turned 21. 5 days after I turned 21. And we've been together ever since. It's been rocky, mostly because of me, but...
Think you're more solid because of it?
Gotta be.
Yeah.
if I didn't fucking grow from it, I would be crushed by it. It was adapt or die. And I know that sounds like macho fucking lingo, but it really was. Either learn to deal with yourself and your shit or fucking avoid it. So either I'm going to be a drunk or drug addict or in prison and still be a drunk or drug addict maybe, or be dead. That was what is where I would be if I wasn't hanging on to this. That's it.
You have kids?
Five kids. I got 4 daughters, 1 son, 26, 21, 22, 19, 18, and sorry.
You good?
And my son is 16. He's the only one in school still. I just had my our youngest daughter graduate this year.
Was there a lot of emphasis on that?
Having the kids or getting them to graduate? Or
Yeah, having them stay in school.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely wanted, school, and it's a whole nother conversation, how valuable it is. But to me, I'm looking at the bigger issues there. Like, can you stay committed to something and be disciplined enough to fucking push through and get the fuck up when you're supposed to and follow through with what you said you was going to do. And, that's the lessons I'm really concerned about as far as school goes and just anything. So, but we just wanted to do them right. But man, I was gone for so much. And my wife, I fucked up a lot of things with my kids too, just not knowing how to do it. I remember me and my wife will joke about it sometimes. It may not be funny to some people, but my first 2 kids, the older ones, I was a taskmaster. And all I knew from my parents, because my parents, they influenced me, but they wasn't that great of parents. I just remember he had to finish your food at the table. That was like in my head, like no matter what, when I get a kid, they're going to get spankings for every fucking thing. And just whap, surprise the shit out of them, ambush them, which was probably traumatizing to any fucking kid. Especially a big mean looking person. And then if they didn't eat, like we made food and you're sitting down eating, like you're not getting up you're not doing anything until all that food's gone. And I mean, like, bro, pick your battles. Like, it was ridiculous. Probably my older kids are probably still traumatized from fucking me sitting over them like, you're going to fucking eat that food. And now, bro, it was ridiculous. But yeah, we tried our best to be parents, and you learn on the fly, do what you know. And then when you know better, you try to fucking do better. I know that's cliche sounding, but that is what it is, That's what it is.
Is there a large difference between the first ones and the last one as how you raised them?
Oh, yeah. Huge. Huge.
You think that's you, or it's the times that we're 10, 20 years later, or?
Nothing to do with the times. It's just us. Mm-hmm. Like, of course, society influences us to some degree, but it was us changing. Like, us seeing different things. We were more religious then and hypocrite motherfuckers, just trying to do what we knew from being Southern raised and like eat your food and you're going to go to church on Sunday. We don't know what the fuck that means or why we're doing that, but we're going to do that. And I think a lot of people do that shit in general in life. You just do why are you doing it? I don't fucking know. This is what we always done, right? We did that with them, and we were probably worse parents. And now that we're not so much religion driven, and we're probably better parents. Not to say they're tied together, but it's just funny to me how it's different. But with them, we could be a little more disciplined probably, and we probably should be more tight with how we do things with our kids, but we've been a lot looser, and it wasn't catastrophic. Mm-hmm. I feel like we got better relationships with them. I feel like we've mended fences with our older ones, and our older ones may have some resentment and against us about how we raise them versus how we raise their siblings, but we still talk to all of them. We still have relationships with all of them, and from what I've seen in my life, a lot of those relationships don't last, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah,
I just want to be in their life, even when I'm not able to provide any benefit to them.
Any grandkids?
2 grandkids. My 22-year-old got married to a soldier. I know that sounds bad too. Caleb, he's a good kid. He's got good parents. He's from California. They live in Fresno, near Fresno's Madera area. His dad, they own a masonry business, pretty big business. He works for them. So he got out and moved back home and took our daughter. And we got mixed feelings about that, obviously, but we don't get to see her as much. But she's got two babies. John, he's about to be 5. And she's got Ellie. I think she's going to be 2 or about to be 3. Eloise, and they're beautiful. I wish we could see them more, but they're so far away, you know. His family offered us to move out there. I don't know if I want to do that.
California?
Yeah.
Any of your kids going in the military?
Well, my 2 daughters that still live at home, my 19 and 18-year-old, we tried to push them. We got them thinking about it for a little while. I don't know if they're going to do it. Maybe they don't have the motivation that I have, good and bad, right? So I was running away from craziness. I'm glad they don't have to run away from anything. But hopefully, I don't know. I got mixed feelings about the military. I'd like them to go do something and see something. I'd like them to grow. And I feel like left to your own devices, you don't grow, right? You got to be forced into things to some degree. You got to just, friction makes you grow. And they're not going to choose the friction. So I doubt they're going to do anything. My son, I got him thinking about it. He and I have a pretty good relationship. Once I've learned to lighten up a little bit, having my first son and feeling all the pressures of trying to see me and him, which makes me all fucking emotional. Like, you got to do things this way. You got to do things this way. And I started thinking about that. I was like, is this about me or is this about him? Like, I need to shut the fuck up. It ain't got to be me. And it's nothing to do with me if he doesn't do things like I would like him to do. Anyway, he's thinking about going to the military. He's thinking Air Force maybe. I haven't been pushing it as far as like special operations or any kind of cool guy shit. I just told him, like, go get some exposure to different people, different beliefs, different characters, because I think that's a benefit. See things, get some discipline, have to go through some hard stuff, relatively, and, you know, learn to live on your own a little bit. And I was like, then get out and go to college if you want to, and you'll have a leg up on everybody else because you already figured out how to do your own laundry and pay your own bills and not get into this trouble and be a little bit disciplined, keep up with your shit, put your shit beside the table every night in the same place, which I'm still trying to impress upon him with his keys and everything. But I'd like to see him go just because I think it'd be beneficial for him, and I think he's got his head on straight. He's not one of those kids that needs that. He's an even keel type kid.
What do you think he might do if he doesn't go in the military? What do you think his other avenue is?
He mentioned getting in the trades, which I'd like for him to do because I feel like that's got a future versus a lot of other things that may not. And he was asking me about what trade. I was like, maybe, you know, carpenter. That would be nice, be able to build things with your hands. And I know some guys that do that, and I did a little bit of it with my military job, learning about building in general. And then I've got a buddy that got out and retired, and he became an electrician. I was like, any of those things, like, people are going to need those things.
Does he have TCAP at his school?
Yeah. He was doing. They got certain programs in each school, and then you can switch. He didn't take a lot of interest in that so far. He's been playing sports so much, like he's playing. He played football, soccer, and wrestled. And he's only wrestling really because me and him made an agreement. I gave him a choice. I didn't make him. He got out of football one year because he wasn't liking the dynamic of the culture. And I get it, because I was like, you know, you don't have to be a part of the silly culture just because people say it's the thing to do. And but I told him, you know, you already started, so you can't get out of it. And it was conditioning, so the season hadn't started yet. So I told him, because he really wanted to get out of it, and I seen an opportunity to fucking hold his balls in my pocket. And I said, well, if you wrestle for all your years in high school, which I wanted him to do anyway, then I'll let you out of football this year. And he said, all right. I was like, don't agree yet. You wait. Wait till tomorrow. Maybe think about it, because I'm not letting up on this. Like, you're going to do it, like it or not. And he agreed to it, so now he's got to wrestle. And he's got a love-hate relationship with that. And I'm happen to be the coach at the high school now.
Oh, shit.
So I didn't want to do that, but they were about to lose their program. And I could learn to love these kids, man, these young men and women. You know, I appreciate the effort they give me when they see the effort I give them. So, and Judah's a part of that. And he don't really like me being there because, I don't know, it's always something with your dad, I think. I don't know how every kids are. But he's like, when I'm a part of it, he's like, it feels like he's being forced to do it. If he does it on his own and I'm not around, then he has more fun with it. So I try to lay off of him as far as my coaching for him. I kind of indirectly coach him instead of being right on his ass all the time, because he gets enough of that from me. But he's wrestling now.
Do you think you'd be a better wrestler if you were on him more?
Him? Would he be a better wrestler?
Mm-hmm.
I think potentially, like, if I fucking drove his ass into it and I pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, he may be a better wrestler, but I'm not ready to sabotage us for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care. And as far as, I know it sounds like I might be competitively driven doing the things that I've done and coaching like I am, but I'm not really. I'm looking at it for the bigger picture, and I think what was the intention of sports in general anyway was to make better warriors. And better warriors make good men. So I look at all the benefits of wrestling outside of the minutia that is wrestling. Like, I don't really care if he's the best wrestler. I don't care if he loses every fucking match, and I tell the whole team this. I don't care if you lose every fucking match. I don't care if I ever look like a great coach. I don't care about that. I want you to push through adversity. I want you to go out there half naked and get your ass beat, cry about it, and then grow from that. That's what I want. And it's happened for all of them. I mean, we got the majority of our team is brand new. And last year there was a lot of crying, a lot of boys with tears in their eyes. Made me cry for them. And, bro, transformation, though. Transformation. And I ain't saying wrestling's everything. There's a lot of things that could get you that same result. But there's not many where it's going to give you the benefit of knowing and experiencing getting manhandled and learning how to manhandle other people and crush you emotionally like that until you grow. And some of them, they didn't stay. There's got a few guys that came and went. But the ones that stayed, bro, so much stronger. So much stronger. And I just seriously don't care if they win. I don't.
Do you think they could get the same thing outside of school, like with jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, they could. They could. I mean, it's going to be harder outside because you're contending with life in general, right? So anytime we can concentrate our efforts in one area, you're going to grow faster.
Well, I think it's easier to stop going to jiu-jitsu, right? When it gets hard, you just don't show up anymore.
Yeah. And then, even these kids that in school, like, some of them's not, I don't know, bad-mouthing any parents or anything, because I understand how hard it is to be a parent and be on top of your kids and be fucking consistent and show up and force, and when they give pushback to keep going, because that's hard on a fucking parent, especially if you got multiple kids and your life. But yeah, maybe they already got so many things working against them to stop them from fucking doing the hard things and allow them to be inconsistent. Everybody's working a fight uphill, So yeah, it's easier. And even like I said, those kids in high school, like, they got so many reasons they could get out of it if they wanted. And I feel like that's where I come in is if there's no extra drive behind them pushing them to do these things, maybe I can motivate them a little bit and spark something in them and try to pull something out of them with my passion and confidence in them that they keep going for some reason. And some will have. I've seen it. And it ain't just me. It's just somebody there that fucking wants it more than they do, and they can latch onto that.
It might not be that it's just you, but it was you. You were the one for some of those guys.
Well, I know how important it is.
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah.
They need it. Like, there's no other way. Humans are going to fucking take the path of least resistance. You and me are just fucking deer taking that trail straight to the water, taking that trail straight to the fucking field to eat, and the trail straight back to the fucking bed down site. And sometimes you'll deviate, and then you'll go right back to it.
Yeah. So much you wear that beaten path.
We're all going to do that. Unless we are swayed to do other things. We put things in our life that fucking will force us to deal and grow. And then eventually it becomes a discipline as we get older. Unfortunately, it takes so fucking long to discipline yourself, in my opinion. You know, it sucks, but finally I'm developing discipline of keep this in your life. Get up and move. Get up and fucking do this even though you don't want to. Process the emotions that you're feeling. Own up to the fucking bullshit that you fucking did. Because I know it's better. I just know. It's not hope. It's not faith. It's fucking knowledge. I believe because I know. And kids don't know. So I'm just trying to fucking keep them going until they do know.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, through the process of them gaining that knowledge, there's nothing catastrophic. And by catastrophic, that's subjective. Some people's catastrophic could be way lower than what you consider catastrophic. And by what I mean by catastrophic is what knocks you off that path permanently, that you never recover. That's catastrophic. You get both legs cut off, and maybe that's not catastrophic for somebody, but it'd be catastrophic for others, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So my hopes, keep you going until you can believe, prevent catastrophe. And maybe through the process of keeping you going, you develop strengths where nothing is catastrophic to you. You know? And that would be my goal. Nothing's catastrophic. Fuck that. Keep going. I mean, that being said, if I didn't have those kids, my catastrophic would have happened long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't give in to the catastrophe because I was committed to something that I thought was more important than me. The fucking crutch. I needed it. I held on until I believed and adapted because I didn't want my kids to go without me or go without somebody. I didn't want, even not just me, because I didn't know that I could be beneficial to them, but I didn't want them to, from their perspective, to think, well, this man in my life that created us or gave life to us in some form or fashion gave up. So therefore, that's telling me that's acceptable in life. And I didn't want to create that legacy for them. I didn't want to create that ripple effect in their lives where they're constantly struggling with giving up and not having a life of joy to some degree because who they knew as their closest male figure set the tone for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that fucking kept me for a while.
Yeah, I have, like, all through, I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, but in 8th and 9th, there's two teachers that I remember vividly that probably changed the course of my life. One of them was Mr. Sabala, my Spanish teacher, and all he did was tell us stories about all the crazy shit he did when he lived in Tijuana and how he snuck across the border, right? But that stayed. And then Mr. Valley, and he was kind of we were Red Dawn kids, right? We watched Red Dawn in the movie theater, and we'd carry guns to school just in case the paratroopers came and shit. And he would always talk guns and stuff. And he was a physical science teacher. And I got an F in that class, but I attended every class. I literally went to school to go to Mr. Valley's class and then would just go home after like 10 in the morning. So to this day, I still remember that dude. I don't know what happened to him, but the conversations we had compared to the other teachers, we had to be there, whereas this dude, he actually seemed like he wanted us there and had these conversations.
You had lessons beyond the formal lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is probably the most important part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't give a fuck about those grades.
But I paid attention, I think, because it seemed like he cared about us. And physical science was kind of cool. You know, we were lighting shit on fire and making stuff, pop and blow up and stuff.
Bunsen burners.
Yeah, Bunsen burners.
Bunsen burners.
Yeah.
And all that.
I wonder if they even have those in school anymore.
I don't know. They're probably too scared to have a fire in the fucking school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully, and I thought about that too. Like, there's people that I remember being so thirsty for fucking acknowledgement and love as a young man, that if any person looked me in my eyes and said, and gave me, some feeling of fucking acceptance, I remember them. It could have been one fucking interaction. Like, I remember some, and we don't have to go into detail. I remember some teachers just at the library buying me peas, black-eyed peas across the street from the library downtown when I was working on a project by myself. And I don't even remember that woman's name, but I remember her being a teacher at the school, and I felt something. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking ridiculous, but it goes a long way when you just show them that you care for them in general, even if it's not like, I tell these kids, like, motherfucker, I ain't your mom and daddy. I ain't taking you everywhere. I ain't buying you all this shit. You ain't getting money out of me. I said, you can earn stuff, but they know I care. You know what I mean? They realize that. They see through bullshit. All right? Because they know. They're humans like us. We see disingenuine fucking facade bullshit, and it only lasts so long because we're pretty fucking intelligent. We adapt.
Do any of your wrestlers show up at jiu-jitsu?
I'm trying to get them involved. I brought them to the gym, and we had certain periods during the school year where you can't practice, or there may be a holiday or whatever, the school's closed, and I'd invite them to my gym, and they do waivers and do stuff there. And I'm trying to get them into it. I'll just tell them this wrestling with just more options. So it's just gonna make you better. It's just more exposure.
Could you learn anything in jiu-jitsu that would get you disqualified in a high school wrestling match?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, learning it and implementing it is two different things.
But if you know it, how are you not going to,
Well, I do it.
Okay.
I mean, I still, when I wrestle with them, I abide by folk style wrestling rules, and I can't lock your hands. When it goes to the ground, you can't choke their neck intentionally. You got to have an arm in there. So there's certain things, and it just makes you. And my thing is, you don't have to take the techniques and implement them, but you'll know better. Like for me to hold you down and then go and isolate your arm and a joint, that requires a little thought. It's not just natural. So you can avoid doing that. But what it's going to do is, if you're grappling more, you're just getting more confidence because you're getting more exposure in these positions. So it's going to become more subconscious to you to move your body a certain way and apply pressure this way and loosen up this way and stay balanced and change the angles. Right? So it's just going to be more beneficial for them, in my opinion. Right? Obviously, you know the rules, so don't.
Right.
The biggest thing that'll cause problems is sometimes, and for any new wrestler, is a problem anyway. Once it goes to the ground, you got to unlock your hands for folk style. So that's a big issue for anybody, but it's not a dangerous issue. It's just going to get you. You're going to give up points.
You think every kid, you think they should have jiu-jitsu like in like grade school, get an exposure at a young age?
I think individual combat sport is important.
Yeah.
Whether it be, and I think wrestling is the oldest. I mean, of course, I don't know, what, judo and jiu-jitsu come from Japan. I don't know how old that is necessarily, but from our understanding, wrestling has been around since the Greeks, and it's in mythology, and, butt-naked guys grabbing on each other. But, Brandel, just calm yourself. But I think some version of combat martial arts should be the regular. I think it should be a part of the culture.
Yeah, wouldn't that remove a lot of the bullying and stuff like that?
I think so. I mean, you still try to bully somebody. People's going to be better, but
yeah, but the kid that runs, it's because it's more out of fear, right? Because he's never been in a situation like that. It's the unknown.
it's just gonna make us all better, man.
Whereas,
Because I'm gonna stop shying away, and maybe you're gonna stop shooting people and doing these extreme things where you're shooting and stabbing or fucking overreacting to certain situations. And I know these situations, they're not black and white, but I feel like people fear is running rampant in individuals in general in our society because they have a false sense of what's actually dangerous and what's not. Like, if I get past the fear of another man, like, hey, I don't look at it like it's an emotional thing. Like, you're trying to hurt me just because you put your hands on me. I look at it like this is a mechanical problem I'm about to solve. It's nothing to do with emotions. We got to get past emotions. And once you've exposed yourself to individual on individual training to control one another, whether that be bodily control to put you down and pin you on the mat, or put you in a position of some sort of position, or control you enough in space to be able to hit you effectively. Like, once you've done that, like you're already on the way to getting rid of the emotional part, and you're just looking at it. Here's a problem. It's presented itself. Deal with that. And then it's not so much emotion as far as like swinging wild and trying to hurt someone, which could be catastrophic in somebody's life if you hurt someone. Even the regular street fight, I hit you in the face, you fall down, bust your skull on the ground and die. I was emotional, and it caused the death. And probably you didn't intend to kill you. It's ridiculous. If we expose kids to that early, it's not just about being a warrior, and it's not about this macho attitude. It's just understanding humans in general. I talked to you earlier, and I said I think humans are pretty simple. We're all the same. Just like I said, we need mutually beneficial things in a relationship, business, personal, whatever. We all take the path of least resistance, right? Unless we program things in our life to keep from doing that, which requires discipline, which requires belief. Unless you do those things, you're going to be weak, man. And learning to be a warrior of some sort, face fear, face adversity when it's just you that you can hold blame against if you don't do it. You take individual responsibility. That's just going to make society better, and we'll understand each other. It's like, I won't talk and run my mouth and do shit if I know that there's consequences. There's not people I can just bully. I can't just bully everybody. And I know that's what some people say, that's why the gun's there. Well, I don't think we need to permanently extinguish each other every time that we have a disagreement.
I think a lot of like if we're talking gun violence, though, I think a lot of the gun violence, it's not because they can't fight. I think that when you talk about actual gun violence and the statistics of murder rate with guns, a lot of it is it's black on black or it's white on white. It is not crossing, right? So if you're talking inner city youth, I think a lot of those people, those numbers are people physically trying to eliminate the other person. I don't think it was out of fear that we couldn't fight. I think they were literally, that is their thing. When you look at gang violence and gang on gang violence, it's they volley a bunch of rounds here, and then the next night these guys shoot a lot of rounds back.
Well, but it's also the culture of someone who devalues themselves, trying to prove themselves to be valuable, or basically comes down to a pride or ego issue, which is rampant in men. We know that's a problem.
Well, wanting to belong to something, like you said earlier.
So their gun violence in those cultures, and in general, even white or whatever, it's usually a lot of ego bullshit, right? If I went and proven myself many times, and I've adapted to believe that I am just as valuable as you, we're the same value. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. If I truly believe that and understand that, I feel like you're going to be less likely to react based off of ego. Can you still be emotional? Yeah, of course. You still got to work on that always. We're emotional human beings. But to them, the shooting is not survival. It's not dominate you. I feel like it's not logical approach or intelligent approach to take each other out. It's more about, I'm going to show you who I am, and I'm the big dog here, and I got the biggest dick, and I have pride and ego. And then the more we proliferate that that talk, that macho talk between each other, where we're trying to fucking put each other down and show who's the fucking boss, because you're not confident that you are the boss anyway. That's why you're fucking doing all that talking. The more you're going to see people just up the ante more, like, well, I'm not going to be the bitch. I'm not going to be the bitch. And the ultimate not be the bitch is I killed you.
Mm-hmm.
I killed you. Look at me. I fucking shot a gun at you. But does that make you tough, though? It really doesn't get the result that they really want, because you still feel like a bitch inside, even though you did that. And now you're a bitch with catastrophic impact into your emotion and psyche. That'll never be, you'll never get rid of that. Right? You might be able to deal with it. You just never get rid of it because you can't change what happened, right? So that's why it just proliferates the same thing. This gang violence, like, and you probably know by now, you sent me the Kevin Gates song. Like, I like rap music, but also it goes against, a lot of it is talking about that exact thing, like ego, and I'm better than you, and I'm this and that. Like, shut the fuck up and like grow as a man and realize that you're not better than anybody. If we want to try to be better at fighting, you want to try to be better at shooting. Like, can you objectively say you're better at something than someone? Yeah, but better in general, whatever you say that's better than me doesn't make me a bitch. Like, if you do way better than me at X, Y, or Z, I'm not a bitch because of that. And stop measuring yourself that way, right? And then stop taking it so far. If you cared enough about yourself, you wouldn't want to take an argument or a competition so far as to ruin mine and your life on behalf of that. And it just tells you where people stand nowadays. You don't care enough about who you to not sabotage your whole fucking life.
Think it takes maturity to come to that level?
It's part of maturity, but it takes ultimate individual responsibility. It takes you coming to terms with who the fuck you are, good and bad, and that's fucking hard.
And you can't do that without adversity.
You can't. Well, and the thing is, people have adversity. They just don't face it. They tell themselves lies, and they do things to cope and dilute reality in their own heads because they can't face it. And you got to fucking face it, like extreme accountability. Extreme. And why it's extreme is not because it's an extreme event, because it happens in everybody. It's extreme because it fucking hurts so bad. Right? It's like, no matter what, you got to tell yourself the truth. No matter what. Bruh. The simplest concept, in my opinion, but the hardest. So fucking hard. Because simple don't mean easy, right? Extreme accountability, individual responsibility. That's what you need. And is that maturity? I guess that's, it's maturing. It's adapting to what helps you in life. And you're always going to be telling yourself lies or fucking seeking a way to escape reality if you can't do that. And all of it, and there's varying degrees of that, right? It's not like you're either super honest with yourself or you're not. It's, you try to be honest with yourself. I feel like I'm at that state. My goal, my overall philosophy, the fucking North Star of me is be honest with your fucking self. That's my fucking North Star. That's it. If I did this, fucking I did this, and I've got to go feel the pain about it. Don't resist it. And if I fucking told you something and I'm fucking wrong, I can be mad about it, and I can be one of the, I'm subject to the emotions of humans, so I'm going to be like, fuck you, But I can't lie. And fucking, I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. That's just what it is. That's who I am. And if I can't handle who I am and deal with it, life's going to be fucking hard. It might not last long for me. And they need that. But if you don't care about yourself or anything, first off, if you don't care about yourself, you don't care about anything. So somebody that says they don't give a fuck and they're loyal to something, I can't believe it. If you can't care about what you think of yourself is how you think of every fucking thing. How I treat any relationship is an extension of how I treat me. right? So there's no blind loyalty to anything unless I see that you fucking take care about you. And when I see somebody that cares about themselves, then I truly respect them, even if they don't do things to benefit me. Because I'm like, well, he's doing what he needs to do for him. Like, and that's a straightforward, solid person, because he's going to do what's best for him. And if I want him to do something for me, I need to benefit him in some way.
Add value.
I need to be somebody, maybe a sounding board. It doesn't have to be, quantifiable value necessarily. It's just got to be something that adds value to their life. But yeah, extreme responsibility and accountability. And I've heard somebody say that before. Like, I'm not a big reader of philosophy, just here and there. I'm kind of all over the place as it pertains to my time spent on things. But yeah, rap music, killing each other. They don't care about themselves. You need to care about yourself. And it goes back to this whole, we talk about the state of the country and our society and shit, and families, the family nucleus, and fathers not being in homes. Yeah, I mean, in general, but it's really just comes down to what are the things that are set in place to help individuals care about themselves. If you don't have that in your fucking life, and you don't ever get that, you're not going to do well.
You think it's worse now than it was 20, 30 years ago?
Well, I think families it's more common to not be a part of a family, not stick to what you said you was going to do. I think it's more accepting now to do things, and whatever the reason, if we were more Christian or we were more scared of God or more, I don't know, closer to our roots of the beginning of what U.S. was founded on. I don't know what it is.
Well, I think religion was a framework.
Yeah.
That held everybody together.
Yeah, and I see why, like, as much,
Boy Scouts,
Yeah, things like that are preaching values that are beneficial for humans. Being a part of something.
I've never met an Eagle Scout that wasn't seemingly successful and seemed to have his stuff together,
Yeah, and what made them go to Eagle Scouts? What took them there to every meeting? What
parents
didn't let them quit when the kid does what kids do,
yeah.
and they want to quit shit because it's boring or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Parents.
Yeah, and built wherewithal. They had to stick through.
So it was consistent influence, consistent disciplined influence over time is what made them. But that was their crutch. All of us need a crutch until we can understand things. Like, my crutch as an adult was my kids until I could fucking get through whatever I was going through. My crutch before that was just luck. It was I didn't have anything. I was just bouncing around like a fucking bouncy ball in a room. This direction, whatever. So kids, when they have that parents as a crutch, they don't understand things. That's what we are, though. Like, I know they won't understand. I know you won't understand. I know that it's in your nature to quit. It's not because you're a weak human. Every kid will fucking quit because they don't have discipline, because guess what? They haven't practiced that shit. If you ain't practiced shit or been exposed to it regularly, consistently, you're not going to be good at it. Everything. So if you haven't practiced in life, you're not going to be good at it.
Yeah, discipline, doing what you don't like until you love it.
Yeah, you're going to do something, I'm going to take you somewhere, and you're going to be like, yeah, this is great. And then the next week, you're like, I don't feel like it. And you're going to be like, and you're just going to go with your emotions because you're an emotional being until someone teaches you to overcome the emotion part, find whatever motivation inside of you to fucking keep going, even if it doesn't feel good. That's a taught thing.
They say gym memberships, less than 10% of the people actually attend the gym, but those 100% pay every month on a reoccurring for years and years and years.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. And then the emotional part is it, once you fucked it up, even if you know better and you're like, man, I fucked things up. Some people don't recover from that because it just drives you down further into the hole, right? Like, I fucked it up, so now I'm not going to do it again because I'm just stupid and I'll just all right, we got to get past the emotion. We know that's fucking part of your life. I know now, finally, in my 40s, that I'm going to fucking, whether life is going great or going bad, relatively, I'm going to get up and down. I'm going to have a different fucking perspective on something that I loved yesterday. My perspective on that same thing today might be, fuck that, you know? And I'm like, bro, do not listen to that. Don't listen to that. Like, I got to keep going. You know, I got to fucking deal, even if I don't, my emotions say this fucking sucks right now. And that's got to be learned. And if your parents, the people that directly influence you over and over again on a consistent basis, don't help you with that, how are you going to have it? You might get it later once you know better and you're older and you fucking realize, hey, damn, I hit my head in the wall 1,027 times. Maybe I should fucking stop running into that fucking wall. Maybe you'll learn it that way, but it's harder that way. It's harder that way, and maybe you never recover from that because there's a lot of regret along the way, a lot of sadness, a lot of things that you're going to have to go. Once you do take accountability of who you are and take responsibility for you, it might be a lot more shit than what it was when it started, you know? And that's fucking hard. Maybe I need some drugs to escape reality now. Maybe I can't fucking deal. But that's what, I mean, I know people make that argument, the family. Just break it down objectively, scientifically if you want. It's not the family. I just need constant exposure to things that are good for me, that help me deal with in life. And if I'm not getting that, you're not going to grow. You're not going to learn it.
You just have to be around positivity. I think it's almost more important to remove negativity than to even add the positivity.
Well, we're fucking naturally negative. It's a survival mechanism. Like fear, stay away from the bad thing, right? It helps you stay alive as a fucking caveman or whatever the fuck. And I'm not just saying that because I read that. It's because I fucking believe that. I've taken account of me and all my experiences, the best of my ability. And I see that that's what drives me a lot of times and that's what I got to get control of. And I got to logically think through because I'm like, fear. Why am I fucking acting like this? Well, I'm scared about this. Like, what's causing this emotion? Was it beneficial for me to fucking keep going that way and reacting to that? Or is it beneficial for me to dictate what I'm going to do?
Do you think we're weaker as a people in the United States now than 10, 20 years ago were?
Yeah, you kind of asked me that. I think, yeah.
And I ask you that
general.
because you've been around the world. You've seen what real, catalyst for fear is compared to in the United States. When you open the door now, nothing's going to pounce on you and eat you. We don't have to collect water, right? Mm. And I feel like as a young man at 14 years of, I would get dropped off on a job site with a sledgehammer, a pickaxe, and a wheelbarrow, bust up concrete, and then roll it all out front. Mm. And nowadays, if I took a 14-year-old and left him on a job site, there'd be law enforcement looking for me over it, right? We were just calibrated differently. Yeah. First job I had at age 13, I took 2 buses and rode 90 minutes to get to work at McDonald's. You can't even work in San Diego. I think you can't work till you're 16 years of age now.
Well, I mean, looking at the fucking environment, it's dangerous. Yeah, we're definitely fucking weaker just because it's more accepted that people can be raised by whatever they're watching. As long as your attention is taken somewhere and you're not actively engaged in fucking some bullshit that we may not agree with, then you're fine. Instead of what really is the case is you need to be actively engaged in programming, for lack of a better word, programming or investing in them. That's what needs to be happening. It's not an easy thing. I got to work to face the hardship of telling my son something that's awkward or something that's going to cause an argument and I don't have the energy to deal with right now. I just got to do it. And that's work. I think it's just more acceptable now for everybody just to, they're good, leave them alone, they're doing that up there, or they're doing this, and it's okay not to be a family. It's okay if you're a mother that didn't have a husband. And I'm not getting into belief systems and whatnot. Again, back to, it's just logical to me. I need consistent influence, positive, and that's subjective obviously, but positive influence, consistent lessons to be taught to me so I can learn disciplines to help enhance my life and help me be strong in this life And that's not, it's just acceptable now not to have that. It's just whatever. It's like everybody's just rolling the dice. Like, he'll be fine. They work themselves out. No, it doesn't. It's by design. It's like people work things out with their kids. You don't just throw a kid out in the wild. I mean, yeah, they would learn some survival techniques, right? But it might not be great for life. Just throw you out and see what happens. I mean, now there's some luck, survival of the fittest, I guess, right? But kids are going to fuck things up, and they need somebody to bounce that off of. I need to go to somebody and tell you, hey, John, like, I'm going through this, and I fucking feel this way, and I keep feeling this every day. Can we talk about this? Let some steam off. Let me bounce things off of you to see if makes sense to you. What do you think about it? Am I a fucking piece of shit because of this? Am I no good because of this? Because I had these emotions. And somebody to reassure you that, no, it's not that. I did that. I felt that. And it's okay. Like, you're going to go through that. And you're going to work through it. Let's put it behind us a little bit. We process some information, process some emotions, and now let's do what we got to do the next day. And that's got to be a consistent thing happening in your life until you learn to do it on your own. And even at my age right now, I can't do it on my own. We always need some backbone support. You know, I need my wife. I still go to therapy. And it's less about me trying to figure out what's wrong with me with therapy. It's more about, I know what's wrong with me. How do I maintain these things? How do I maintain the systems in my life that help me fucking persevere and be the person that my kids and wife and inner circle need me to be? And a lot of strong inner circles are going to become a strong community, yeah? Right?
What about it takes a village to raise a child?
I mean, I see how it helps.
Yeah, if you had multiple strong.
Oh, yeah, fuck. I mean, but the village was part of the whole system, you know what I mean? Like, I lived with my grandparents. The grandparents are the village, and the aunts and the uncles, whoever's in your life, in your circle is, if we're all understand the values and we all have a understanding of our self-worth, like, yeah, the village is going to help, because when I'm weak today, my wife and I are a village. When I'm weak, she's strong, and when she's weak, I'm strong.
The reason I say that is, like, men can't teach their women to shoot, right? Maybe you can. But if I trained with you for 10 years and I shoot just as well as you do, and I go try to give that to my wife, she ain't going to hear it. But you could tell her, I mean, I could do exactly what you do, but she's going to hear it from you. And I'm like, you said the exact same thing and did the same thing. And that's what sometimes your kids, my son, Brandel will walk in the door and say something literally word for word that I said, and you'll see his eyes light up.
He accepts it from him.
And I'm like, you little motherfucker. Yeah.
Well, we're all going to be, there's always the lenses that we see people through, and how we're going to receive that information. And I feel like like I was talking about my son with wrestling earlier, like, he's resistant against me because I've been pushy, and I get that. And and I understand it. And it helps hearing it from someone else. And it's important to go, I think, as much as it is important to teach kids values, it's also important to them for them to understand why. And that I'm not just telling you shit to read just because that's the easy way. Here's the rules, just follow these rules.
When you said you kind of lay off your son, and I said, would he have been as good a wrestler? I wasn't questioning that. I understand exactly what you said. I was just curious. He won't take that message from you the same way the kid next to him will. So is he lacking anything? Probably not. We'll probably never know it. If he was, he won't anyways. I'm just curious, like 10 years from now, because I would hear my parents say things and I'm like, and I see myself say it and I'm like, I get it. And sometimes it's 30 years later,
Bro, processing, I haven't figured out that dynamic in life yet. Is like, the best way I can frame it is, I've heard people say this in the religious community, God's timing and things like that. And I really just think there's just, you're just not ready to receive some fucking information sometimes.
Yeah.
And it may be based off of how it's communicated to you. It might be based off of who's communicating it to you. It might be just you don't have the fucking bandwidth to conceive of what this is yet.
Yeah, your brain's just
There's
not
so many
ready
things.
for it. Yeah.
Bro, I think about it all the time. I'm like, bro, I knew this concept. I remember this concept. It's not foreign to me. And then all of a sudden, I know it. I know it. It's in me. I see the application. And I've been saying this in jiu-jitsu, teaching it lately, because I've been experimenting with different approaches to my teaching. Just because I learn more and I try to adapt and do what's better. And I think, is this better for the student or is this better? You know, let me just figure it out. And there's this ecological approach, which is a common thing in sports from what I've read. It's not something super new. It's just new to the culture of jiu-jitsu, really. It's kind of big online in the small circles. And I've kind of been doing that for a long time. It's like, and I was beating myself up because, like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know all the minutia of every technique, and I feel fucking bad because of that, because people are expecting me to know these things, and I fucking feel bad about it. I think all of us probably deal with that to some degree. Like, man, I don't know everything, and I don't want to fucking, I feel stupid because I should know everything. So then I'm like, let me look up these things. I should know these things. And then, but this approach is more about like letting people self-organize, is some of the terminology they use, self-organize. So I give you some constraints. I give you a problem, you know, and I say, all right, here's this. You try to do that. And I don't tell you how. I don't say like, well, you got to do it this way. Or I don't use jargon. I don't use terminology that's specific to that area. Just let you figure it out. And I feel like me thinking through all that for the teaching aspect also makes me think about life more. And I'm like, there's people understanding something. Like, you can tell me something, and as a grown man, I can kind of see the reason and the logic there. Like, okay, he explained that. He said this, and he showed me this, and like, okay, I see that. That's a good point. But there's a difference in understanding and believing. So I feel like concepts, we're fucking intelligent. Like, I can understand things. Some people may not be able to, but eventually they will. But then when I experience something, I believe it. Like, now I see it. When I see the application of that concept or logic or reasoning that you gave me in my life, now I believe it. And now I've taken hold of it. So part of my theory, and I don't know how stupid or ignorant I am about this, but I feel like if you don't experience something, you can't truly believe something. Even if I truly think that you're right in your reasoning and your logic, I can't really.
We all know how that tourniquet works. We know why.
Yeah.
But until you put that on the first time,
Yeah.
until you see that blood stop, there's a demarcation there that's very different.
Yeah, it's hard to really believe, and it's hard to really get behind it with all of your being until you believe, and it requires experience. And I'm not saying that to discount people that don't have experience with things. All of us have relative experience in certain areas. I haven't experienced everything Brandle's experienced. Brandle hadn't experienced everything you've experienced, right? So some things we'll understand the concept. Brandle could explain it to me. Skateboarding, maybe a kick flip or something like that. I understand your foot's got to slide this way, and this one's got to, and you got to do this. And you're telling me what you got to watch because you'll sprain your ankle. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But then when it happens, then I'm fucking no. And then it's in me. I believe. And believing versus understanding is another level, in my opinion, when you believe. But you get better at that subject in general because I believe it. Why do I believe it? I fucking experienced it, right? And there's some things I'll tell you honestly, and if everybody was being honest, they'd tell you the same. There's things that I teach that is all based off of understanding, not belief. Because I haven't experienced everything that I fucking teach. And, you know, I think that's just part of being a human. Like, there's going to be a lot of things that I'm just fucking winging it to the best of my ability. Hopefully it's not going to hinder anybody's progress or be unsafe. But I'm just doing it like, I'm doing the best I can. Right? I can't experience every fucking thing. I try to. The older we get, we probably experience more things. Unless you unless you stop exposing yourself and hide behind what you've learned thus far, which some people do.
I think we remove stuff that's not as important too as we get older.
Yeah.
So that picture's a little bit clearer. I mean, we can go as 18 years old, we can go in the gym and try to push 305, 365 or whatever, and you might do it. But it's very different when you're 25, 35, 45.
Hell yeah.
The techniques, and we stop doing stupid shit, you know, especially the first time you have a tear or an injury or something, you're very cognizant. And
Because you're a believer now. Like,
yeah,
that technique, he told me it made sense.
Absolutely.
I really believe it now.
Yeah, don't be
like,
military impression. Yeah, have your elbows forward. Yeah, absolutely. Just technique. It's easy to fuck yourself up, you know, permanently. And, you know, you get a little bit of taste of that, and you're like, oh, I see what we're talking about here.
I think we'll always, to some degree, as humans, dabble on the razor's edge before we actually believe something.
Yeah,
but even then, you'll do it too. So.
But as you mature, you're more cognizant of it because you understand the repercussions of it.
Yeah, especially if it was super negative consequences, like her injuring yourself. To me, that's like, I hate being injured. I hate fucking not being able to use my body. I hate being in pain. Because that's something that it's just, my life has been around a lot. And I fucking like, bro, I'm not doing this stupid shit. Like,
were you injured in the military?
I'm 100% disabled. It's an accumulation of things, though. But I don't have a Purple Heart. I wasn't shot in combat or anything.
No, I was just curious. Like, you move well. Like, I don't look at you and go, I don't see a limp or, you know, anything like that.
I'm slow to start getting out of bed.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a constant level of pain, and I'm not trying to, you know, get sympathy.
No.
But I'm not at the level of pain of some people, and I refuse to take daily medicine. I don't want to take daily medicine. I've been on I was on antidepressants from 2003 until last year.
What got you off of those? What changed?
Well, I was always in the back of my mind. I was down to 10 milligrams a day, which is pretty low for a guy my size, for Prozac. I was on Prozac. I never wanted to change because I don't know if you know much about antidepressants, but it's fucking pain in the ass to get off and find what's right for you. And bro, I hated that fucking game, and it'll fuck your system up. It'll make you act like an asshole for real. I was just like, all right, this is what worked for me. I'm staying on this, and I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to cut cold turkey and then fucking freak out on my fucking wife or some shit. So I just kind of like, well, this is what I got to do to stay regular. So I did all that. What happened is some of my buddies that are also Green Berets, my Green Beret brothers, they told me about this charity where it's Ambio. It's by a Navy SEAL guy. I guess Navy SEALs, they're good at being celebrities. They're good at making charities that help other fucking veterans, so good for them. They're on top of it as far as that goes. They had this charity where they pay for you to go down to Mexico and you do ibogaine, which is from the iboga tree in Africa. I didn't know much about it. I mean, I knew about other hallucinogenics, obviously, you know, the regulars, ayahuasca and mushrooms and whatnot. And but ibogaine, I guess it's used in ritual in Africa regularly, or has been in the past. And they call it the grandfather of the psychedelics. Like, because you get the grandmother would be ayahuasca, I think is what it is. And then ibogaine's the grandfather. And my buddies went to this retreat. I had to pay for myself to get to San Diego, and then they get me down to Mexico. And you stay there all week, and you go through a process. You gotta come off of any medicine, any antidepressants beforehand. So I had to taper. I had to go through that process. I was committed. Once I signed up for it, you know, and they gave me a slot, and I was like, well, I got to fucking do this apparently. So I fucking followed through. You got to stop drinking like a week ahead. You're not supposed to smoke weed or anything like that, or whatever you're doing. A lot of people got different things they're doing up until that point, because a lot of people are like on the verge of rock bottom when they go do this, and they're trying to help them. Fortunately, I wasn't a guy I'd already dealt with a lot of things before doing this. But my buddies said it was great. It changed their lives. They didn't have the same urge for escapism as they had before. And what really convinced me to do it was my wife talked to their wives, and their wives were like, he's a different person. Their wives were saying, this guy's a different person. There's something different. He's more in touch with his emotions, meaning, you know, everything's not just anger, which is kind of like the default emotion was for myself and for a lot of people I knew. It's like anger. You scared me. I'm angry. I'm sad. Fuck the world. You know what I mean? So I got on that, went down there, and it's fucking harsh. It's different for different people. They have different experiences. For me, I felt like 2 weeks I was fucking had a hangover for 2 weeks afterwards. And it's not fun. It's not like a party psychedelic. It's not fun at all. And you see things. Again, luckily, for me, I had dealt with a lot of things before I did that. Like, I was already on my way to fucking trying to be a better person and take ownership of who the fuck I am. And I had been for years. But they call it a hard reset for a reason. I came back from that. I was sleeping better. I was it taps into your nervous system, and people can explain it better than me. You can look it up. Ibogaine, Ibogaine, I think. It reset me. I was crying for fucking like a month straight. Like every day, I'd just be fucking crying about something. I'd just be driving in my car like mortality. Like it was a hard reset. It helped me a lot to come to terms with who I am better. But one of the bad things that came from it for me that I'm still dealing with is like just I feel like I just came to terms with mortality. More so than I ever thought about it before. And it's made me better and made it harder for me at the same time. It's made it better because I've got a sense of trying to make the most out of moments and not let things go to waste, you know, because I'm just thinking about this is just fucking temporary. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen after this, and then I'm done. It makes me sad, but it also just makes me reflect more on my relationships with my kids and love them, because I'm thinking about, you know, with mortality comes, you know, old age. Before that, and like there's one day that I'm not going to be able to provide. I'm not going to move so well as you said. I'm not going to be able to do these things, and it scares the shit out of me. It's just, and I'm having to come to terms with that fear of not being able to control some things. And that's really what it is, I guess. Mortality is just an ultimate understanding of what you can't fucking control, and that's hard for me. It's hard for me. So I've been dealing with that from that Ibogaine. But at the same time, it's just giving me repetitions. It's kind of like training to shoot or training to fucking do whatever. You're getting a lot of repetitions and exposure. I get a lot of repetitions of thinking about, damn, this is it. Like, I got this, and this fucking, when it's gone, or one day I'm going to fucking hopefully my kids love me enough that when I fucking laid up in the bed and I'm nothing but a fucking burden to them, that they still love me.
So Ibogaine is something you took down in Mexico. It's not something you continue to take. Is that correct?
No. It's a one-time thing.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can do it multiple times, but it lasts like 24 fucking hours or more that you're out of it. Like, you're conscious about the whole thing. It's not like you woke up and you're like, well, I was in a dream. It's like you're conscious the whole time, but you're getting audio illusions, like visual. You can't have your fucking eyes open. You got to wear a mask, because if you open your eyes, the world's going like this. Yeah, and you can't fucking, your equilibrium's way off. There's different experiences. Guys talk about, they talk to their old self. They talk to God. They were just watching. I was watching little neon lines move like in a fucking, on a Pac-Man fucking screen. And it was horrible to me. It was horrible. But I did sleep better, and I had less of an appetite to fucking escape reality. When I got back, I came back. I sat in the airport 2 hours in fucking San Diego waiting for my flight, because I just had to get there early, because it was a big group thing, you know. And I was on the phone crying. My daughters were scared for me. They never heard me cry so much. I was bawling on the phone because it was just, I couldn't handle what was going on. I was just sitting in there crying. My wife was trying to fucking call people in San Diego to fucking come find me in the airport, and I was just like, no, don't worry about it. You know, I just got to sit here and wait for my fucking flight. It was hard. I was just broken down. And I think it's a lot of the guys that done it, the guys that I know that had some probably worse issues than me as far as drinking and whatnot. It really helped them a lot, changed their fucking life. And they're still with their wives and they're living a lot better. Some of them's talking about going and doing it again. I haven't come to that place yet. It was hard. I never felt so vulnerable, and that was great for me. It's like anything though. Like, go and face some hard shit, and you're gonna grow from it. That's a simple way of putting it.
When you do ayahuasca, aren't you supposed to take somebody that you trust with you? It's like your journey partner or something.
I wouldn't do any psychedelics if I didn't have somebody fucking babysitting me.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine that's never done a lot of drugs and was wanting me to get him some mushrooms, and fucking he's like, I'm just gonna go take some and go to the woods, and I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're gonna fucking die. You're gonna
eat up
step in a fucking hole, break your leg.
Fire ants.
Yeah, you're gonna get bit by a snake, not know what to fucking do. I was like, no, bro, you don't understand. I was like, you're not doing that. I'm even scared to do shit like that. I'm like, my wife and I have talked about, let's do something, and I'm like, bro, I would have to have like a lot of contingencies in place. I'm like, my kids, who's gonna watch if my kids had a wreck and somebody had to respond, like, what's gonna happen here? Like, I'm not even about fucking. But down there, it's all controlled. It's medical. You got an IV in the whole time. They're fucking monitoring your heart, and you got to go through a whole process and before you go to make sure. They're worried about liability as well. They don't want to fucking kill anybody or hurt anybody. So it's very professionally done. It's not like I just went somewhere and they're like, here, smoke this shit or whatever. It was pill form. But so it's very on the up and up as far as the medical approach to it. But yeah, people don't go do anything on your own. Like, that's why I was thinking earlier, like, going through life. People talk about survival of the fittest. It's like, it's survival of the lucky. It's just fucking luck. Like, the things I've done, for me not to have fucking had worse legal fucking repercussions or worse fucking physical fucking injury repercussions, I don't know how it's happened. We're just fucking bouncing around and hoping things don't happen around this fucking world, aren't we? Like, I've been on acid and fucking done shit as a kid that I fucking, like, I could have easily killed someone or myself. And it's just luck I didn't. And that also, where I'm at fucking spiritually, is like, I constantly go back and forth between, is people just relying on luck, chance so much? Like, just the chance, the luck of the draw that something happens or it doesn't? Or is there's actually something bigger that's fucking driving me? And that's where it's hard for me to be an atheist and not believe in something bigger than ourselves, because I've just seen so many things where, why didn't something happen here? It's hard for me to believe it's luck, and it drives me back to spiritual. I don't like religion, though. I don't like the way it's used. I don't like the pious approach to fucking things. But I see the reasoning behind people following something that helps keep people in line, I guess, and promote values that would help society work better together. But I don't like not knowing why about things. I'm big on, I don't want to repeat a bunch of shit just because that's the way it's always been. I'm more about, well, why though? Mm-hmm. Why are you fucking looking at this picture that looks like a guy with blue eyes from the fucking Middle East? Why is that the Italian Borgia guy picture that you're worshiping? Do you know why that's the picture? Like, I want to know shit like that, you know what I mean? And not necessarily promote conspiracy and shit like that, but just I'm with extreme self accountability. I start to want to be honest about everything. I want to know the honesty of everything. Why? Not that I want to break something down. I'm not going at it maliciously. I just want to know why. I want to promote people to understanding why. Know why. You know, as soon as you got the bandwidth to ask why, I think that's what you should be doing to yourself and to others. Like, why am I acting like this? Why am I trying to look muscular? Is it because makes me feel good. Yeah, I kind of feel good based off of society standards and rules. I kind of feel good because I want to look strong. But I also like being strong. I like to be able to lift things. It helps me when somebody's trying to beat me up. I'm spitting everywhere, sorry. But when somebody's trying to hold me down and control me, being strong helps. You know, so things like that, I want to know why and know the truth of the matter. So religion, to me, it's a lot of spouting off things that probably based off of ignorance more than somebody being malicious. But I don't like that.
Well, a lot of religion is from the church, right? You need to read these things, and
It's propaganda.
And we're looking at this book that was translated by men, and much of it was removed by men. So I mean, religion doesn't have to be the church. You can your spirituality and your belief. It doesn't have to be that building. It's not the building.
Right, for sure. I agree with it wholeheartedly. Yeah, so the Ibogaine, it helped me, I don't know, change something in me emotionally. It's one of the big things too about that, we can get off of it, but one of the tests that they did, there was a guy that had a military guy, a veteran, who went through the treatment. He had black spots in his brain. They did an MRI scan on his brain where he had issues from CTE, whatever, explosions, whatever, black spots. And those black spots shrunk away after treatment from Ibogaine. So it's not just a feeling that's changing in you. It's it's in you. It's
physically can be documented.
Yeah, there's physiological effects that are helpful to you beyond the emotions and dealing with yourself, you know what I mean? That was amazing to me. So there's science behind that. And I don't know why it's not out there better. I guess maybe because it's, maybe big pharmacy can't make a lot of money off of it right now.
That's probably the biggest part of it.
We don't want to heal your ass.
Yeah, patent it and take patent the reaction or the catalyst to it and then, remove it. I think that happens a lot of times. What if, there was chapters in the Bible, for instance, that told you how to heal yourself with, sounds and different things, and they get removed?
Yeah. Which is, I deal with fucking my, I try not to go down the rabbit hole, right, and get mad about everything, but things like that make me mad, and I'm just kind of like, I can't even listen to fucking like certain podcasts and shit because they talk about it. Reminds me of how shitty some people can fucking act sometimes, and maybe they just don't understand the gravity of their fucking actions. But it makes me so fucking mad.
Well, there truly are evil people trying to, very few trying to control masses and such. We've seen that everywhere all through history.
I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and think about what's your fucking. Maybe they really truly think that's best. Like, I don't see how you can know that's fucking evil and do it unless you're just completely fucked and cruel.
You don't think there are some just evil people?
No.
Okay.
To be honest, no. I don't think everybody's good. I think you're just human.
Maybe they're not human.
Maybe. But I'm not a believer of that. It takes more for me to believe it.
You don't believe that there's maybe demons or?
I haven't seen it.
Correct. Okay.
I mean, I understand the logic that some people can pose, like we were talking earlier, but I haven't experienced it. It's hard for me to believe it. It's not that I'm discounting it. I just don't fucking know.
You ever met anybody who says they've seen angels? With like
hearsay of people saying things like that, or
you've never met anybody near-death experience or anything that said they physically have seen an angel?
Personally, maybe. I remember thinking from my childhood when I was in the children's home, they talked about some kids in the children's home with me. Said this one kid that fell out of a window and broke his legs and his spine that was there at the home with us. They said they seen angels slow him down on the fall. Multiple kids said that, but I didn't fucking see it.
Was he still injured?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've met two
different...
different...
Great job, Angels. You should have fucking held him.
Gotcha.
Should have held him better.
Man, I met two different people that told me about angels they saw, and they were both about to commit suicide when they saw it. And they had identical stories, and these guys had never met each other. And it was, and I mean, maybe it's because they had something that maybe you could say maybe in the past they both saw the same show or something. But man, they both had identical stories. And the description of the angel, the situation, and these guys had never even come in contact with each other until we introduced them.
I hear amazing stories.
Yeah.
Again, to me, I'm not one to say that. I'm fine with agreeing that I don't fucking know enough about certain subjects to fucking not make a firm decision on it. I just don't fucking know.
Have you ever seen anything that just couldn't be explained?
No. My family has told me things about evil stuff in our old family house.
Like ghosts and stuff or spirits or something?
Well, my mother and her, I want to say her sister, got locked in a trunk. And they swear to God in their adulthood that something did that. My uncle swears that he seen fucking something in the mirror, this lady. All this crazy shit.
And it all
I never seen it.
All revolves around the same house.
That house, yeah. When I was a kid. And a lot of bad things happened in that house. Molestation, things of that nature. So, I mean, if you could fucking invoke evil, I'm sure it would have been done at that house. But I've never seen it personally. I've never seen anything like that. Again, though, I want to say I'm not discounting it. I just don't know. I've been following that, what's his name? Billy, the black dude, Billy Brown. Damn it.
What's he talking about?
He's talking basically quantum physics, and he's the one that he was just on
Rogan.
Okay,
I know who you're talking
Billy,
the actor.
black dude.
The actor.
No, not Terrence Howard. He was just on there. Terrence Howard's on there.
So not the periodic table guy.
Oh no, not him either. That's is that Tyson?
Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
No, not him.
Billy.
Just type in Billy and Rogan, you'll come up with it.
I feel stupid talking about things I don't know enough about.
I do it all day long.
Billy Walters?
No.
Different black guy.
Carson.
Billy Carson.
Stupid. Should have known that. Billy Carson, but he's like a great speaker. He's very intellectual. I think he's known for having a great memory, and he'll read things and he can recall this page, word for word things that he's read. Supposedly, I seen him. It wasn't even on Joe Rogan. It was on Andrew Schultz, comedian, on his little podcast. And it came across my shit because I watch a lot of comedy shit. He's talking about his experience. He's seen a being like an alien, and he believes in the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Like from the heavens.
Yeah, the Nephilim. And
Yeah. I guess that's the same kind of just different writings. And he talks about how you can cross-reference all the ancient scriptures from different regions,
All
different
around the
religions, and they all kind of point to the same direction. And I think that shit's interesting. Again, I'm hearing it secondhand of everything. Like, I don't know or believe any one thing. I use that term believe by design. Like, I don't, again, what I think believing is, experiencing.
Well, I think as we get older, because we're given this framework as children, and then you kind of, as you age, you kind of find out that the history is actually complete bullshit.
No.
So as we get older, we definitely question things more because we had this belief as a young person, and we just thought every adult told you the truth, and they give you these books, and it really kind of sank in when I had a 4th grade teacher. And then when I'm an adult and have my first kid, he has the same 4th grade teacher. And then my next son has the same 4th grade teacher. And as I'm helping them with homework, the story is no longer the same. What we learned for social studies, something had altered. I don't even remember what it was, but I'm like, wait a minute. Because I remember getting in trouble for not doing the homework and having to do it all on a weekend. And then the whole thing is completely changed, 15 years later. So it's, the victor writes the history. You hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But,
what Russia writes about a war with Germany is going to look different than what Germany writes about a war with Russia.
Yeah.
Right? Like, same with us. And I get that. To me, I see that's just human way. Like we're gonna be biased. We're gonna skew things in our favor, especially if I have an agenda in mind. Like if I want to control something, there's people talk about the Rockefellers and how they created the school system that we have now. And,
Yeah, DuPont's, Vanderbilt's.
and they want workers, not thinkers. And I agree with that to some degree. Like I don't necessarily think that's evil. I think that you're just fucking ignorant as fuck. You know what I mean? They don't care enough about, maybe they truly believe that there are different values in humans. Maybe they truly believe.
The world won't run without workers.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's no easy answer if I was in a position of power, like elite power, like I wouldn't make all the right decisions, for sure.
What one decision would you make if you were in elite power right now? If boom, tomorrow you had the
fucking
ability.
Loaded.
What's like? Pick three. What do you think would be important to make the United States, for instance, better? Or
well, everything would come down to like you're forcing your agenda to some degree. So people talk about China and how there's
sure,
it's driven from the top. Like you do what we say, but then you see the progression and the intelligence and I don't know everything, obviously, because I'm not inside and I don't see these things. But it seems like their people are fucking, to some degree, do well. I think there's a balance. Like, the way I would run a nation or a people is the same way I would run my kid, which is how much do you interfere before you take away their fucking ability to live because you think it's better. I think my wife and I, that's how we offset one another. She would, if she could, she'd put my son in a bubble and he wouldn't fucking do anything.
That's mom.
And I'm the one that's like, he's got to fucking drive at night sometime. He's got to drive in the rain fucking sometime. Am I going to give him some fucking controllables, right? Give him some input? Yeah. But I ain't going to I can't tuck him back in here and not let him do it because eventually that's going to be awful for him. So I think you got to give him rope and then you got to be okay with what happens to people in life when fucking things happen, which could be tragedy. So I would dictate that, we're going to fucking promote combat arts. We're going to learn to fight more. Why? Because fighting it's not what I prefer. But I know that it's a means to an end, and I don't like to be violent with people. But I will be violent, and unfortunately part of what makes me good at violence is I've experienced violence. Not talking about war necessarily, I'm talking about on a personal level, right? And I think we should take away the mystique of the boogeyman or of violence, and it don't have so much power over you. Violence doesn't have to be emotional, Not promoting robots to fucking go kill each other, like that. I mean, just take away the boogeyman. Stop avoiding things that you think are fucking, that's unfortunate that people have to go through that. Well, life's fucking unfortunate sometimes. Like, stop running away from it as if that you're gonna change the trajectory of humans. Humans have been the same ever since anybody ever wrote about them and we know anything about them. They've been the same. Ain't nothing changed from us. You've been acting the same the whole fucking time. Why do you think we can live in harmony? But we just need to be able to reason things out. And I need to be capable of people that are unreasonable, to deal with people that are unreasonable. So a warrior class society, not because it's necessary as far as like, we're fighting all the time, because the bigger benefits involved. Again, individual fucking confidence, taking away the fear of someone putting their hands on you. All right. Just creating strong bodies and strong minds in general. I said that on one of my buddies' posts. He was talking about the ancillary BS that in the gun community people talk about. Like, what about this site versus this site? And I get it. People want to nerd out and do shit. By all means, I don't mind it. I'm just not doing that. I don't like to do it. I think about build a strong mind and body, and then the other shit add on, obviously.
Not as marketable.
Yeah, but I don't,
Everybody, they get that instant gratification because we get in bed at 10 o'clock, we look at Amazon, we buy something, and now I've got some cans of rice and beans coming, so I've done my prepping for the day. But fitness at the rawest form is free, right? You can lock a man in prison, you can put him on a ship, he can still remain fit if he chooses to, even in a jail cell. But we don't like to do that because we can't just buy that and get that instant gratification. It requires actual effort.
Right. It's not easy.
No.
Simple, not easy.
But it's necessary.
Yeah. And to me, it's almost reassuring because that's just something that I can control a lot of times.
Plus, it's visible. We know that you have the ability to remain fit because here you are, fit.
Relatively.
But if you will do that on your own, I mean, it speaks.
Well, it speaks that, you know, I'm willing to put in effort. I'm willing to put in work. And, you know, I know not to put down people that don't exercise all the time or lift weights or look like they have strong muscles. I think it's easier for some of us than others. Again, I said it's been a part of my life. It's a part of my culture. Like the David Goggins of the world, talking about how hard things is. Well, for him, it really ain't that hard because he likes to do that. You know what I mean? So, relatively hard. Physical things, hard. But if you love doing hard shit, different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a struggle for him as much. So maybe it's hard for him to fucking talk to you about how he feels about that thing you did and become emotional with you. Maybe that's hard for him. Right? But yeah, I mean, if I was in power, I would want to mind and body strength would be number one. And then I can't feel like I can't make you be a family. I can set an example, which in the military, which the military is not by no means the pinnacle of fucking and standard for the rules of leadership and how to lead people. They have been doing it a long time, but they're just trying to get a result out of you now. It's not always the best. But one of the things I remember from the 11 leadership principles, which I had to learn, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore in the military, was number one was set the example. And that was great for me because I was like, I mean, obviously I wasn't the example for everything, but basically it helped me because I'm like, I don't know what to fucking tell you. I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like, and it goes down to like what we talked earlier, like love yourself. How you feel about yourself is, and your relationships with others is an extension of how you feel about yourself. Well, how you do your, whatever your system and discipline is, you know, your leadership is an extension of that. So if I'm fucking doing whatever the fuck and I'm not abiding by the discipline, like, it's only going to be so long before people see through your bullshit if you're telling them do this, but you're not doing it.
Yep.
Right? So you got to do it the best you can. So it's not popular in politics now, but because everybody's going to blow you up on the internet and make memes if you're fucking not perfect. But if you could be on there and be like, look, man, I used to grab girls by the pussy or whatever the fucking, like, I did that. I don't know what to say about it. I'm fucking sorry about it. I don't know. I was that person. I'm trying to do this. I'm going to reason with you on this is who I am. And tell me one of you that hasn't done things that you wouldn't want the public to know. Right? So somebody's got to do this job, though, and I'm going to do it the best I can. And if you're not going to agree with me all the time, and sometimes I can't do something that's going to benefit every fucking body the same way. But this is who I am. I feel like that'd go a lot further than the facade that people put on because of so much exposure now with the internet. Just being genuine. Yeah, you're going to catch a lot of hate. And my genuine might not, some people based off of their lack of perspective might not understand. Like I tell somebody I did cocaine. Some people, I might lose a lot of people that had respect for me before because I say that, or because I listen to rap music that talks about some bullshit, and it's not the country music that they may assume that I listen to, which I like country music too. But I'm just gonna be honest with you though. I know it's not perfect. I know it might not be what you like. I know it might not be the best thing for me. I know that the things in my life won't add up to what you might picture the ultimate leader being. But what you can rely upon is I'm always going to go for the truth and honesty. the best of my ability, even to the destruction of myself. All right. I wish we could see that more. So if I was an elite person in power, I would just show fucking raw honesty to the best of my ability.
Might not agree, but you're going to know what I thought.
And I'd set the example with that. Maybe other people would do that. But I can't make people do anything. Once you start making people do things, and I know that's probably better for organizational purposes, but I mean, for life purposes, it's not going to be that great.
Think we'll see another civil war in the United States?
I don't know how it'll happen. I know that societies in general, empires, if you will, rise and fall further back than we even know. We think we got history back to this point, and I think it's beyond that. Based off of these things I see on the internet and the Anunnaki type things and pyramids and things I'm just discovered that people that may not know about. I feel like civilizations have risen and fallen. I don't really believe in apocalypse so much as I believe that up, down, up, down. So maybe a civil war, maybe, I don't know. It's crazy as shit that's going on now, and what I've seen that people are willing to fucking just publicly fucking display, people in power, people that have influence. I can't really put it past people to go across the line a little further, and next thing you know, fucking the government may kill its own people, and it'd be okay because some people are just going to cling to, well, I need this order in my life, and the big brother fucking says that this is the way it is, and I guess that's okay then. And they're going to keep following that because of fear is their basis of motivation. I can see anything happen, really. Like,
Think there'll be a point where we look at it and go, oh shit, we should have stopped this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now we're too late?
Yeah, I think that's happened over and over through history. Through my understanding of recent history, of America's history.
Well, I mean, I think you've seen it some of the places you've been.
Yeah, bruh. The war on terrorism. I mean, what do we know now that we didn't know then? Back then, it was fucking make these motherfuckers pay that killed all these people in New York. Very fucking limited fucking understanding of the whole big picture, right?
Right, yeah, who really were.
And now I'm just thinking, and I made relationships with Iraqis in specific because I went to Iraq so many times. And, you know, I know our nations, we got to remain, global politics is a thing, and you got to preserve your nation, but I feel bad for those people. That we went over there and fought, or I've hurt many of them.
Yeah.
And I've worked with them and seen them hurt for things that were really not that important in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion.
Yeah, at the rawest form, was it really, Halliburton and, Brown and Root? Was it about a few people making a lot of money, or was it really what we were told it was?
Well, yeah. And, Memorial Day just passing. People that were brothers of mine who died because of just being over there, doing for what? That kind of pisses you off.
Sure.
Like, you didn't have to do that.
Think we're about to see that again?
I think it's going to repeat itself. We're going to continue.
Does.
We're going to always change the agenda, and we're going to get you fucking scared about this thing, or we're going to get you motivated. We're going to come together as patriots. Whatever fucking influence the people, I think it'll be done. Like, what's that thing the other day? It's like, I seen a meme, which I wholeheartedly believe this. It showed the red and the blue, Democrat and the Republican. And they doorway this way, then you go in there, you go to the same fucking bullshit.
Same wings of the same bird.
Yeah, it's a bunch of ridiculous. I mean, you can like people better than other people, but that's just people swaying things. You ever read Ender's Game, the book series? In there, I've read all. It's fucking way deeper than just fighting aliens, right? If people don't know that, it's fucking deep. It's fucking. It shows life as we see it. It's just through a sci-fi lens, kind of. But it talks about I forget. It was Ender's brother and sister. I think they became influencers on Earth because it's all in the universe. They're on Earth, and they decided to mutually, like, you could be this voice, I'm gonna be this voice, and we're gonna be opposing. And they just swayed the people. They were doing it.
Well, I think that's how a lot of politics is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, to keep people involved. We always say, you took our tax dollars and sent them to Ukraine. No, they took your tax dollars, but they created that money they sent to Ukraine. They take our tax dollars to keep us involved in the system, so we have some kind of semblance that that structure still exists.
Well, as far as the government goes, people, like, it's kind of like a fight to me. Like, me and you can talk shit to each other, and when are we willing to make it permanent and, like, put hands on each other and hurt one another? And the government, it's kind of like, people talk about like us, like, well, if you hate the government and you're fucking this guy and you think they've went against the Constitution, why are you not doing something right now? It's like, well, I don't know if we want to fucking gamble all that yet. It's scary because it's going to be a lot of consequences. There's a cost to it. It's going to be a big cost to it if you fucking make a stand. And really, I don't know what I wish about the fucking government. I just see that there's things that I feel are blatantly obvious that are wrong, that we're doing, that's not in the best interest of the United States.
That the government's doing.
Yeah, the government in general, politicians.
Yeah, I think most people
putting
just
things in bills that fucking have nothing to do with anything that you and I would say
Right, it
that I
should
want
be
my tax dollars to go to.
Single issue bills, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing the fucking game and they're doing it right in front of your fucking eyes, and people can say we're arguing semantics like, well, is that a good thing that they're putting in the bills? Like, it's not what the fucking bill's for. You don't just come up with any old good fucking vibe thing that you want to fucking do and use our government system, our political system to fucking for your agenda just because you think things are good. Fuck you. You don't know what's good better than everybody else.
By the time they decide to say it's enough, I think they're going to realize that it's too late.
Yeah. I feel like
people are comfortable. They're not as long as that electricity runs and that internet stays on, they are not going to have any discomfort. They're not willing to do that. Like when you look at the original Civil War, was it started at Fort Sumter or was it started during Bloody Kansas? If you go back 5 years, you had citizens killing citizens just over different political parties, right? So during Bloody Kansas, it wasn't even called Bloody Kansas then, but they're like, no, we're not in Civil War yet. But what was, like, as we look at it now, that really
Tell
was.
me Bloody Kansas was Bloody Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
You had citizens, you had basically Republicans killing Democrats. You had people who were arguing in political parties.
Before the revolution officially started.
Correct.
The shot heard around the world.
Correct. Yeah.
And it was basically, it was all bubbling.
Yes. But when we talk about
and people
it
were
now,
putting up with it.
Yeah.
Until some violence happened.
Yeah.
That drew the line.
That's right. I was watching this morning Trump. I just was watching a clip while I was in the shower. Tim Pool was talking about Trump, and they're talking about putting him in prison for 4 years over this shit, which would in effect they would lock him into Trump Towers in New York, I guess, and that would end his campaign. He wouldn't be able to go on campaign.
He was campaigning in Bronx 4 days ago, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
He's a funny motherfucker.
Yes, he was. Like him, hate him, whatever. I mean, I don't think anybody can disagree that when he was the president, we were in a better position. Money was easier.
Yeah, and that's the thing with me. Like, people want to talk about these bigger issues beyond my control, in my opinion. Voting aside and all that shit, whatever. And I don't like to go down that rabbit hole because it depresses me, and I feel like I can't fucking do shit about it. So I like to go back to, like, well, what immediately impacts me, and, well, can I take care of mine? All right, I'm prepared to kill and pillage and do whatever I fucking got to do to some degree. Excuse me. And if the gas is cheaper, and even if we know we're kind of fucking within this little agenda of the elites or the people in power, whoever that may be, whatever your conspiracy is, right? But what affects me day to day, like,
well, it's war within arm's reach.
Yeah, the empire is going to fall regardless. We're going to always have it so good that we fucking fuck up everything, take it for granted, and it falls, just like all the empires. Rome being the most recent before us, I guess. Or maybe UK before that, I guess.
Well, I think you put yourself in a position where it doesn't matter to you as much. You build yourself to where what they do doesn't affect you as much.
Because you know you can't do shit about it.
Sure.
What do I do?
If you have some property and you grow some food and you produce some food and you have some kind of commerce where you have the ability to barter or trade outside, right? My neighbor has pigs, I have rabbits, I have sheep, multiple generations. We have enough property to where I can remain on my property. My kids have children and I can help raise their children. We've convinced society that you need to have, 2,500 square feet and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. But maybe that's not what you have to have, right? What if you had multiple living quarters and you came together and had a meal in a chow hall, for instance, together, and you built something so awesome that your kids wanted to be a part of it, and then as you got older, rather than we warehouse our elderly, and then we talk about, oh, I want to go see mom and dad, but we see them maybe at Christmas. So if you spent time and you got a couple of families together and bought properties next to each other, and we stopped warehousing our elderly, and I look at that, you talked about mortality. I'm 52. No matter how I look at it, I'm on the downhill side. Spearco, my friend Jack Spearco says, it's marbles. Every day you put one marble from the life into the death jar, and yeah, exactly. And one day one's more full than the other one. So I feel like I have to move faster and with more importance and more urgency because I am running out of time. Best case scenario, 30 years, maybe. And what's the quality there, right? So what I do today, I have to be cognizant of, and the time I put in now, I look at as quality of life and extension on the back end, right? I think it's important to get up and work out every day, especially when you don't want to. I think it's important for stretching and, mental capacity and journaling and, things like that.
I've seen you on Instagram up early as hell.
Yeah.
I was like, he's stronger than me.
Shit.
He's stronger than me.
Shit.
I only get up early when I gotta be somewhere. But yeah,
I think
so control the controllables, man, and you're doing a great job of it, by the way, from what I see.
Dude, thank you.
I was not prepared. I recently stumbled upon this viewpoint, I guess. I'm late to the party, to be honest.
But I'm late. I mean, this is only relatively new. I mean, when I was 30 years old on social media acting like a fucking asshole, there were people who were way more successful reaching out and going, hey, yeah, you can do this, but it will affect things in the future, right? Instead of being negative, you should operate. It's like the silent professional, right? You guys always have that silent professional thing, whereas the Navy dudes are, who's a SEAL? Well, you'll know he's a SEAL because he'll tell you he's a SEAL, and it's there's 2 ways to look at everything, and as a younger dude who was making a lot of money being an asshole, I was quick to tell those dudes to fuck off. And I'm sure that at this point now, there are people that I would love to do business with that remember that I told them to fuck off. So all I can do is do what I believe is right. And then the people with those beliefs will show up. And maybe if I do that long enough, those dudes will change. I'm not even aware of, yeah, that's right. And maybe that happens, and that's a great relationship. And maybe I've already burnt that bridge, and it's just not there. I don't know either way.
Were you known as an asshole? Was he an asshole, Brandon?
I think he was known as one. He's not one.
I heard the same thing about Tactical Response.
James
Yeager. There's all shit on the internet with him.
Mm-hmm.
And you tend to, bro.
So knowing James,
I can't make any video online without looking back and thinking it was cringy as fuck. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
So
I'm stupid.
Knowing James, having breakfast and lunch and dinner with James for 5 years, almost every day, and knowing him a decade prior to that, I can tell you that when I did move here, no matter what people said online, it was never a guy we could identify that ever had any contact with James. They had formed some opinion.
Yeah.
And James had students from all over the world. And there's at least 12 times where I saw James get up and hook up a car hauler and drive multiple states over to bring that dude whose vehicle broke down to class and pay to fix that dude's shit. Like James around the world.
I heard good things about him from people that were close. But you see shit on the internet. Like right now, anybody that's got any celebrity.
Sure.
And it sucks when you made a stand publicly about something, because as soon as you fucking oppose that with your actions, somehow motherfuckers they're going to get on your ass.
Yeah, I mean,
mostly haters because they don't like their own fucking life, really. But
well, it's always successful people don't ever speak ill because they don't have time. You're never going to see a successful dude show
People
up.
that love
to
themselves
take-
are not
yeah,
going to fucking try to.
correct.
Let me
because-
see how if I can fuck you over, make you
Well,
look bad.
It's because it's very important to operate out of positivity. People tried to tell me this for a long time, and I don't think I even have a grasp of it yet. But when you operate out of positivity, more positive shit's going to show up. And as soon as you do some negative shit, it just tells the universe in some manner, hey, he likes this negative shit. Let's give him some more of this.
Yeah, that's true to some degree. I feel like you see it in special operations in general, special forces. Like a lot of people are higher level, obviously. I mean, you had to make it to a certain level, but it's like fucking sewing circle, man, as far as rumors and talking shit about people. Because what it becomes is, I've got a theory in my head, like a lot of people that do high level things, they're super ambitious because of lack of love inside. So what gets you, what drives you so much? Somebody, not all, there are anomalies. There's people that fucking truly just like, that's interesting, let's do this. And then from a genuine standpoint, like, that's cool shit, let's go do something. But a lot of people I've seen in the community of high achievers in general, whether that be sports or military, whatever the fuck, it's they're looking for something. They're filling a hole or something. So that tells you who they are. So it's like, it's the catch-22 of fucking being successful at things. A lot of times you're driven by unhealthy things. And it's the same for me, for sure. But once you get there, people still, if you haven't been forced to adapt and grow, because that hadn't happened yet maybe, or you're fending it off, right? You're still operating with that same unhealthy image of yourself, even when you achieve. So what do? Your mindset is like, well, I've achieved it, but he's fucking challenging my my manhood or my alpha status or whatever. So it's easier. The path of least resistance is, I'll just tear you down. I don't need to make me better. That's hard. The path of least resistance is, well, John's, he's good at, he's strong. I heard he cheats on his wife, though. He's fucking, like, okay, what the fuck's that got to do with anything we're talking about?
Right.
And people do that on the internet, especially. Like, yeah, he's this, but this. And I'm like, well, I mean, does that got something to do with what the conversation is? Or, I mean, is this, and really people just try to tear each other down. I've seen that so much at the higher levels, even with my own self. And I ask myself now on a regular basis, as part of my system, is this for me, or is this help the situation? I ask that when I teach students. I ask that with the high schoolers. Is this about something I'm feeling, or is it better for them? If it's just about me and it's not better for the situation in general, or the teaching, or the communication, or the growth, then shut the fuck up. Like, it's not helping, you know? But that's just human. It's normal, in my opinion. Like, but it shows where you stand inside, and all of us are going to question that. We're always going to be challenged by the feeling. He's kind of intimidating. Like, I don't like that. I need to put my thumb on him somehow. I need to fucking, oh, well, I heard his dick's little, or whatever. Fucking, all right, what does that help? Is that fucking just that feeling inside of you? You just, you brought them down a peg, or does that help the situation at all?
I think everybody needs to be around people that are better than them. If you're the pinnacle, where else can you go? How can you improve past that?
Well, the thing is, when you're not operating healthily, with a healthy emotion and mental approach to things, meaning self-awareness, accountability, you'll run from those things. You'll run from challenges.
You ever heard of a dude named Steve Weatherford?
Yeah, where do I know it from?
He's a quarterback from like the Raiders or something, won the Super Bowl.
Weatherford. I know the name.
So he's got this great Instagram page.
Oh, is it the guy that's the most fit man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was a fucking receiver, maybe, wasn't he?
I don't know, man. I don't know anything about football, but I'm watching this dude, and he said something, and I'm like, holy shit. And I just started scrolling through his shit, and I watched like 100 of his shorts, and like back to back to back to back. And he said, one of the things he said, I don't show up to compete with men. I show up to complete men. And that just really stuck with me. And that's a lot of what it sounds like you're saying at this point. He did all the things. And he's like, I was and his stuff. He's a preacher now, and he's very, God based, I guess, Christian based, and that was just his message, man. And it that has stuck with me, and I like hear it over and over and over
I like
and
that.
over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes down to you dealing with yourself. Like, stop worrying about somebody breaking you down and defending and being on the defense and trying to shut them down. And you're not that great because you're this. Well, John's got a nice place, but he was an asshole.
Well, you can only be a lone wolf. So when we're young, we think we can do that, right? In a survival situation, we'll go live.
Really,
in a
just
culvert
tells you how
with
you feel
squirrels.
about yourself in general.
Yeah.
Be honest with how you feel about yourself.
And then as you get older, and you have a wife, you're not going to really hide in that culvert. And then when you have kids and a crying baby, all that shit goes out the window.
Yeah.
So
What are you going to teach them?
We better build something, some foundation.
Well, when you start being honest with yourself, I'm like, well, am I going to teach my kid? Like, hey, if you feel bad about yourself, just break down the people around you. So that way, relatively, you're better. No, I'm just going to say, make yourself fucking better. And when I preach things and I hear them, I also am processing the same thing I'm fucking saying. I heard a preacher say that one time. He said, it's great to say things out loud, pray out loud and whatnot. He said, because you're getting it in multiple ways now. I'm thinking it. I'm saying it.
Well, that's public
I'm hearing
communications,
it.
yeah.
And I'm also processing it again. I'm thinking it twice now. I'm receiving that information in multiple ways. I'm instilling that in me. Right? And I think there's something to that. I don't know the science and I don't know, but
Well, they say it used to be public speaking, now it's public communications, and the reason they say that, I took public communications 101, and that's the only thing I took away from the class was that people learn differently. Some people learn by writing, some by speaking, some by hearing, some by doing the presentation, and that's exactly what you just said.
yeah, and I can't tell my kids this shit. And sometimes even if I'm not fully, we was talking about teaching earlier and how sometimes I feel like imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm a fraud. I don't know every fucking thing. I feel like, damn, I'm still figuring this out, and I'm here. People looking at me wanting good information, and I feel like an imposter sometimes. And I got to tell myself, there's no other way, really. I mean, who's an expert? I don't really know many experts, and if they are, they're very finite, fucking specific area expert. And everything's got a larger piece, larger context. And me, I was like, as a parent, who's a fucking expert parent? Tell me, find me a fucking expert parent. Fuck you if you think you're an expert parent. I've learned from every child to the next something different, right? And I've changed. We talked about that from the oldest one to the youngest one. And sometimes I gotta tell my kid, I just don't know, man. Like, we're trying to figure it out. That's what we're trying to do. So maybe be okay with not knowing sometimes. That's probably some wisdom that I would be willing to pass out. Be okay with not fucking knowing and not understanding and not getting the gist of every fucking thing. And just know you're limited.
That's with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even breaching, the way they did it, like Chris Cherry or those dudes were doing it then versus now, we can still make the hole. We can still push or cut the entry point. Now we just kill less people with it, ideally. It's,
And what's relative now versus then? Different materials, whatever.
Yeah. So do you have you got a training school?
I train for jiu-jitsu or
For gun stuff?
gun stuff. Not a school. I've got my own business. I go to a range that's a privately owned range, and it's called Deer Hollow. It's in White House, Tennessee. Cross
nice.
Plains, White House.
Nice over there.
Kind of right there. Yeah, it's a nice place. I didn't know the guy. I came there for a private class that he hosted me for. His name's Terry. Good dude. Owns the property right down the road from a high school. So, you know how they do business around there. He owns a little market store that's in town there, Cross Plains, called Terry's Market. And so he hosted me, and I found out that it was just him using his range, basically, and, a couple people here and there. He wasn't trying to make it a business. And I was like, well, what do you think about I pay you per head for students, and I hold my classes here. I'm just basically 1 week in a month. And I'll schedule with him, of course, and make sure, no conflictions. And he said, cool, I like it. So I've got a thin lane for rifle that I can use out to almost 300. with steel targets, and I can put paper out there if I want. And then I've got a smaller little pit with a berm that goes back to 20, 25 for pistol or rifle, whatever I'm doing over there. That can have about 10 wide comfortably. And so I use his place for everything now. I used to go to Montgomery County. I went to other places and hosted classes. And I don't know if you know how it's dealing with other places that, of course, you know, I don't want to interfere with them making money for themselves, obviously. It's a business. But you got to compete with the sounds of everybody and then other people that you may or may not trust. And
What's the name of the company?
it's just Deer Hollow Firearms Training Center.
No, your company.
Oh, mine is Instructor Z.
Instructor
So
Z.
I use the moniker Capable Citizens because the whole Instructor Z thing was just my first attempt at being public on social media when I got out of the Army in 2015-ish. And I didn't know anything about the internet world of firearms training except Instructor Zero.
Got it. Okay.
And I thought it was funny. I was like, I'm Instructor Z. I'm Z.
I just figured maybe it was your radio call sign or something.
No, it was just being funny.
Cool.
And it's kind of lame, I guess, now. It depends on how people look at it. If they look at it ironically like I do.
Well, it's too late now. It's your name.
Yeah.
They know who you are.
Yeah. So, instructor, too, like one of my buddies as a performance psychologist, Doc Seth, he's like, well, you know, instructor's kind of the lowest form of educator. He's explaining to me all the hierarchy of, like, you know, when you instructor's just regurgitating info. And I'm like, yeah.
What would he rename you?
No, he would probably call me Sensei. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I try to call him doctor. He won't accept it. So he's not big on titles. He's more about, you know, do good things.
So you do rifle and carbine?
Yeah, carbine.
Or pistol and carbine.
Carbine and pistol. That's what people ask me about doing all these different things, and, you know, and I understand from what I know of places like tactical response and doing the whole tactical approach and all these variations of certain classes. Me, I feel like I want to stay pretty close to the same curriculum repeated, and I do change things. I get better because I learn things. No class has really been the same for me based off of my explanation of things, besides the things that are invariables, like fundamentals. But the way I approach it, the drills I may learn things different, but I really stick to pistol 1, pistol 2, carbine 1, carbine 2, and then a version of 3 for both of those. Could call it 3. But it's not the traditional sense of 1, 2, and 3, like the traditional sense, like an NRA pistol class level 1, like this is a cartridge, this is a primer, this is accelerant, this is the projectile, or whatever the terminology they use, which I went through in pistol instructor level 1 or whatever. Like, go to YouTube and learn that shit. Like, I don't want to waste your time and money coming to me for me to talk about shit that there's probably people that know way bit more about this than me.
You should do a breacher class.
Fuck no.
But you could do mechanical breaching.
Yeah, but what's the demand? It's not sustainable, and I don't want to be in contract business because
you could fill two classes a year probably with it.
Yeah,
I think you still have like tactical explosive entry school still out there. I think that was Brosnan. I think he's still
they
around.
do it, but it's really
that's their thing. Yeah,
and I've went to classes like that, like in Mid-South, going to breachers, Tier 1.
Or the Crucible,
yeah.
driving school, or BSR.
Yeah, but it's really not going to make money for the people that are my target market.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to really go market yourself to these fucking military and organizations.
Platoons down there.
Well, and that's always a fight. I hate that because the landscape changes so often. So then you find yourself having to resell yourself. Nothing's guaranteed, so you're always worried. I've worked in that business teaching as a driving instructor with Asset, which does contracts with Fifth Group, and most of them contract. It's not really a contract. It's a single purchase with the impact card that can $25K or whatever, and it's merciless.
We could just go to Enterprise.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Rent some cars.
Done that.
Go to Court Square up here.
Done that. And it's just, I mean, I'd be willing to do it. It's just the juice ain't worth the squeeze sometimes for me in particular. Because a lot of people stay in that business and they want to teach that because they want the perceived glory and accolades that come with being associated with that culture and that group of people, you know what I mean? And I don't give a fuck about that. And I can't remain good at so many different disciplines and honestly go to think I'm going to teach you, like when I'm not currently exploring those approaches, those tactics, techniques, procedures on a regular basis to see what's changing. Like, I'm not active. I don't know. And I don't really care to go research and find out what the latest cutting edge shit
Understood.
is. With pistol and carbine, things generally stay the same. And the biggest issue that is consistent is people are overconfident with their particular capabilities and skills. I think that's a consistent issue.
So
and I always have clients for that.
you did a lot of CQB?
That was my mainstay in Special Forces. The company I was in was direct action and hostage rescue, so CQB was kind of our main focus.
So is that an assaulter?
Yeah, we had assaulters and snipers because it's all portions of executing. But I was an assaulter.
How'd you typically get to target?
Well, you train and certified to jump in, but we usually drove vehicles.
Not little birds or...
I have,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't. It could be any of them, all of them, like on the ground in wheeled vehicles. I've been on a boat, called it a BAF, a boat assault force, right? We went on a boat and walked from the river, the Tigris, I think it was the Tigris, maybe the Euphrates, I don't fucking remember, and walked in. And helicopters, depends on what you're doing. If you're in a helicopter, we did a lot of offsets, which is you land 5K away, depending on the size of the helicopter you're in. If it's a Chinook, it makes more noise, so you got to land further away so they don't hear you. And then smaller birds, you can land a little closer, but you're walking around 5 kilometers to target. Most of them was like that. And I've never jumped in on a mission, not overseas. Jumped in on training missions, of course.
Right.
But you had to be airborne qualified, obviously. Our snipers have jumped in on a lot of training. Mostly it was them that did all the jumping. They had to be Halo qualified. I eventually went to Halo school, but it wasn't necessary to be an assaulter. Our snipers had to be Halo qualified.
Do you have access to a facility where you could teach CQB?
There's a couple places I've taught classes, and what I do is I do a play on marketing to get people's nipples hard, like Brandel, because a lot of the fundamentals and the things that I'm teaching are necessary for CQB. So I like call my carbine 1 close quarters carbine, because it's all within 25 yards, and we're doing manipulating of the gun around obstacles to be ready for door jams or people, right? And a lot of people aren't comfortable taking the buttstock out of their shoulder, right? And it's seemingly simple, but I don't know if you'd be surprised or not, but I was surprised to see how many people couldn't do anything but this. Like, this is how the gun goes. Like, that gun don't just go that way. You got to carry it for other reasons. Right?
Yeah,
Move the gun.
I remember Surefire Institute actually switching shoulders and stuff back in, early 2000s when you saw like Dave Maynard and Sneed.
Yeah, and off-shoulder stuff.
That was coming back from Dev Group. They were doing that.
I think you should be fluid with it. I don't have them switching shoulders. I don't teach that for CQB. I tell them, like, by all means, if you're as good with your left side or off side support side as you are your primary side, switch if you want. But it really, to me, it's not as advantageous. It's counterproductive, right? Because I'm not as good on that side. I'm not good at fighting. So whatever I gain from not showing myself or exposing myself so much, I lose in dexterity and ability to fight. So it's not worth it to me.
I watched your video on setting up your sling for CQB.
In my garage.
I'd
Cringy
watched that
days.
video.
Cringy days.
You have a gear company like that you're tied with or anything?
Not tied. ATS, I've done a lot of stuff with them just because Jimmy up there is taking care of me, giving me stuff. I'm not under contract with anybody to do anything.
Sure.
But yeah, I always used the VTAC slings for a long time because that was what was given to us.
Was that Kyle Lamb? Yeah.
And I've met him, and he's a great guy
Yeah.
from what I know of him.
He asked us to sew slings for him a couple. Like, we just can't do OEM stuff. We can't build enough of our own stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a squared away dude. Very straightforward from what I've experienced and talked with him. I don't know him real well, but that sling was huge for us.
Yeah.
I use it all the time. It was very reliable. Had the adjustable, quick adjust, right? Thicken up. They made it the padded one. They made the padded one that was a little bit better on your neck. But the way I set my sling up anyway, the sling don't slide that much, so I don't have to worry about rubbing my neck.
Right.
Which you've probably seen if you looked at that sling video I did.
I did. I watched it this morning.
And I try to tell people when I do those classes, we talk about that stuff in general. It's kind of like not directly, informally, we speak on certain setups and everything just because the problems come up anyway. I don't have to build it in. And I just recommend people, I tell them it's not absolute. You can do whatever works for you. If it's safe and effective, do that, right? But I tell them what I've found with the sling is this. And I've set up my sling on my rifle, the configuration, so many different ways. Every kind of way there is, I'll probably set it up. Just from being the time I was in the military and you shown one way, or the limitations of the rifle, the anchor points. Because in the old days when we first got, I had an M16 when I first came
before,
in.
or even A2s before the M4s, yeah.
Yeah, so I had that. So you had the very end points. That's where the sling had to go unless you did some weird shit.
Yeah, and there was no Burnside loop to attach to at the receiver plate. That didn't exist.
There's no, what do you call it, the detent, the QDs.
Man, I remember the 3-point sling where
had the extra
the
layer.
strangler, yeah.
Had that.
Yeah.
I had single point for a little while in Kosovo when I deployed there. We learned about single point because we had M4s by then, so we collapsed the buttstock a little bit short, single point with the bungee, and then that fucking thing was swinging all around. But it was cool. Everybody had it because you didn't never use your gun for anything. You just carried it. So it was like,
yeah,
it wasn't great if I had to let go of my gun to put hands on you because that thing's slinging around everywhere.
Yeah,
So-
with the 2-point, you can suck it up and
Yeah.
get it closer.
I've been through trial and error with that big time. But, yeah, my classes, though, Pistol 1, Pistol 2, I don't go into, like, details of shit that I feel like you can figure out on your own. I'm trying to put you through repetitions. So I look at it as knowing something and being able to implement something, two different things. You could know a lot. Implementing is different. And a lot of us don't, unless you've already put in some work or somebody's invested in you, you hadn't put in the repetitions. And I get a lot of students that way. Like, they don't know the work required, or maybe they understand the concept. They're not believers yet. So I've put them through reps. We're going to build overly used muscle memory or subconscious ability.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to do it in 1 day or 2 days, but I get them on the right path. And I tell them, what I show you here, like, you should go, it's all on you. I can't make you better. You make you better. I can maybe facilitate some things. You got to go do it, right? Luckily, the government paid for me to be exposed to things and waste a lot of bullets, me figuring out how to do things right, trial and error, right? And you can do it in a more intelligent approach, maybe less bullets.
Yeah, they used to say
wasted.
muscle memory was 3,000 times, 3,000 repetitions to build that in, and then you're going to, revert to your rawest form of training under stress.
Hopefully you don't have a bad habit that you're going to have to deprogram,
Yep.
which might require extra repetitions, right? And we're just trying to get people to do consistently safe and effective things.
And then you do that once a month, classes?
Basically 1 week in a month is when I schedule my classes. I like to leave room to do other things if something else comes up, private stuff or whatever, something that's worthwhile, But as far as my scheduling, on my schedule for my website, open enrollment, once a month, basically.
And anybody can take those classes?
Yeah, I tell it on there, Pistol 1, anybody. I tell them you got to be able to be, I put it in the description, safe and effective as far as executing the 4 safety rules of firearms, meaning if they don't know what that means, then they probably don't need to come. So they need to look into that, talk to their buddy at the gun store, whatever the fuck they do to clue them in. I tell them they got to have certain holster. I like hard holsters. Because it's just liability issue. Not that I'm against the soft holster for particular reasons. It's just not great for training in and out of the holster all day.
Yeah, collapse.
Yeah. And then, so that's a big thing. And then as far as my pistol 2 or carbine 2, I tell them they got to have something equal to my pistol one or carbine one, right? And they can go and look at the description of that. If they've done that before with somebody else, I don't mind. They can come to 2. And I've seen different people. People have different opinions of themselves. Some people think they're awesome and they're not. And some people come to pistol one and say they're not that great. And I'm like, well, bro, you're pretty good, you know? Like, so you never know what you're going to get. Got to take, I manage it pretty well. I always do 2 firing orders, right? So we always got a buddy watching.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's not just for safety. It's also for learning, in my opinion. I feel like when you're in the middle of drills, you're so internal with your focus that sometimes you need to break out of that and look at it externally a little bit. Maybe see somebody else do something, have time to think about things while you're not doing it. So I use 2 firing orders no matter what. If I had 3 people or 4 people, I'd have 2 firing orders, 2. That's just the way I like to do it. So you're seeing and doing reps. But I'm pretty basic the whole time. I add the context. I'll talk about, following through, taking a breath after you're done with a drill. Not so much about tactical things. It's about clearing your mind up, getting your mind back online. I'm done with this. All right, what's going on around me? And I said, you don't have to scan for ninjas on the range and do some crazy shit. I just see what tactical response is kind of dramatic the way they do it, and I don't mind it. I just tell them there are people that are strangers next to you with guns that you should probably look at. So do what's necessary for the environment that you're in. So if I don't know you and you got a gun beside me, how do I know how well you handle the gun?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know that you don't make me unsafe? You're affecting my safety, so I'm looking. What are you doing with your gun? What are you doing with your gun? Right? So I encourage things like that, but only for what's necessary for the environment. I don't get too much into imagination, right? Imagine this, imagine that. I just tell them, we run the gun a certain way, right? And you've got that system built in. Hopefully that system displays itself in the context of whatever you find yourself using your gun for, whether that be performance-oriented for competition or defending yourself or others, right? It's all the same shit. Whatever you got in your system is what's going to happen. If you don't have anything besides a superficial exposure, like, you don't expect much to come out. You're going to fucking get what you got.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You have a holster company that you like? What holster you currently wear?
this one right here, I just broke one that I had. This one is from Made to Carry Holsters.
Okay.
And I just got it because my buddy made it for me as a gift. I send people to Red River Tactical right there in Clarksville because Ray, he owns it, and I know Darian works for him. Both of the guys I know, and I don't know if theirs is better than anybody else's. It's on par with some of the best ones besides all the extra shit like Tier 1 holsters add to it, and I'd say they're on par with T-Rex arms for sure as far as they're making. I've got one of his. I've got I forget the name of my other holster. I got a few different other ones. I haven't bought a Tier 1 concealed. I refuse to spend all that money, and I don't really care about all the wings and all the. I'm simple as fuck, right? So these guys that are carrying all this and executing these cool drills, Modern Samurai and all those. Yes, if you're going to do good at those drills, you better have a holster set up to do good at those fucking drills and have your extra mag there and everything. For me, I feel like I get acceptably well with whatever drills I'm doing with the holster I got set up, but I refuse to wear that uncomfortable bullshit all day. I'm just not going to do it. I like the single claw, and I can turn that gun that way, turn that gun that way, adjust if I'm in the car. I can pull it out just that easy, right? There I am. And maybe it's pointing at my dick, maybe it's not.
I heard you had it removed.
Yeah,
So
I'll
it's
put it
safer.
back on.
What?
Science. But I'm not gonna wear all that extra shit just for the range drills that I do when I don't wear that every fucking day.
Got it. What Glock is that?
That's a Gen 3 Glock 19.
Got it.
It's my first Glock. It's all fucked up.
Is that what you typically wear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm planning on getting it milled on top. I'm gonna put a red dot on it probably. It's just not priority right now. I got a red dot on my Glock 17 and a light on it. Sometimes I teach from outside the waistband. Sometimes I teach concealed. My pistol one is for both. I'll teach you for both of them.
You ever have guys show up with some crazy gun?
Not nothing crazy that I couldn't work with. I've had one guy attend my class, pistol 1 and 2 with a revolver.
I was asking my next question. Did you ever have a guy show up with a revolver?
Yeah, he did great. I mean, he had the moon clips, everything, and I'm not the best at revolver by any means. But he had a little setup. He made it himself. It was actually pretty awesome. Inside the waistband moon clip holder with his rounds. And then he had a revolver appendix set up, and he couldn't see any of it. It was inside of his belt. He loaded right out of it. Slower, obviously. He wasn't going to make certain times, and he had to reload a lot more than us. But he made it work. He fought through it, and it didn't bother me at all in my class. I watched his procedure. I watched how he handled things. No issues.
Was that due to dentist?
No.
Got it.
He's a younger dude.
I got a friend, Dr. Sherman House. He's a dentist.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know him through online. I met him one time in a class.
Yeah, I've known him for 20 years, like friend in real life, yeah.
He moved away, right?
Yeah, he's in Washington,
Yeah,
Oregon.
He likes the revolver. I see that.
Well, he likes 45-70. He likes revolver. He likes 500 Smith & Wesson. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, I've
dentist
known-
money.
Yeah, he's worked on my kid, and yeah, I've known Sherman for a long, long time.
I'm again safe and effective, man. I'm not going to tell you what you should run, and I think revolvers are good for certain practices. I mean, obviously you're going to shoot within your fucking jacket pocket and different things like that. Like, be nice to have a revolver and not a semi-automatic that's going to get fouled up with that. But I'm about any of those things. The weirdest guns I've seen, though, that's probably the biggest challenge. The revolver came, but he worked through it. Luckily, we had a guy that was committed to fucking running it, and so no problems. He just adjusted it slightly. But besides that, it's really just guys getting guns that are all tricked out, and they just really don't have skills that I would. Like, they could run this, like, bro, just get a regular old Glock. Yeah, you'd like to have eventually, even if you didn't right away, you'd like to have something that doesn't have plastic sights. So I changed my sights. And if you wanted a 3.5 pound trigger bar connector, right? So it's not so mushy or whatever it is with your Glock trigger, whatever you think. Like, that's about all I changed. Like, you don't need a bunch of extra shit, especially if you're learning fundamentals. If you're great at guns and you know you're cutting milliseconds off of things based off of fucking whatever you've done, fine. You're looking at the minutia now.
Mm-hmm. Most people aren't there yet.
Yeah, majority of people, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, fuck all that other shit. Run that gun the way, safe and effectively, consistently.
Yeah, guys show up, have 50 pistols, shoot a different one each weekend, and don't shoot any of them really well.
Yeah. Well, and then some people come too, and it's not black or white on this, but they'll come and they say, well, I got this little gun that I'm going to be carrying, so I'm going to learn on this one. But I've got this big, full-size gun too. And I was like, well, if you're brand new, I suggest you let's run it on the full-size first. Just for me, because I'm telling you, even good shooters have a hard time with compact guns. Like, it's just hard. It's not enough to grip. The input that you give the gun is more sensitive to it. And then it's probably going to get in the way of the learning process if you're so worried about all these other little small bullshit that I could eliminate if we just run a gun that fits your hand right now. And then you could add things later, right?
We had a guy come in to get a belt. He's taking a class, I think it was last weekend, over at TAC Response, and he wants this belt. And I said, that's the least forgiving belt we have. Like, this is the other belt that we recommend. We'll sell you whatever you want. I go, are you carrying in the waist or out of the waist? He's like, well, I just carry in my pocket. I'm like, they're not gonna let you carry in your pocket at class. There's probably no
trigger guard or anything.
Correct. And I'm like, what
Is
are
it
you getting a
revolver?
belt for? Yeah, no.
Oh.
I'm like, what are you getting a belt for then? So we ended up on he's going to carry out of the waist.
Yeah. Some people come with ideas, and I put that in my description. Like, I have a solid holster, covers the trigger, right? Fits the gun, so on and so forth. Because you'd be surprised, some people just they just don't have an understanding of what's dangerous. Like, if it's not a revolver, double action gun of some sort, like, I'm not carrying anything in my pocket without the trigger covered. And then you think about the training process all day, in and out. Is that repeatable throughout the day as we're getting multiple repetitions on this fucking thing? Like drawing from the holster or whatever. Like, you're not just throwing it in your pocket and fucking people. I see the problem with people carrying in the back.
Yeah.
And it's not that big a problem. Like, as far as you want to carry, I just tell them, not in my class, because when you're holstering, there becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I can holster good. And I was like, well, me and you are not best friends, and I'm not prepared to risk, all the liability that comes with a stranger coming into my class, blindly holstering
Yeah, and can you
They're
do
done.
it? Yeah, you might be lucky the first dozen times. Are you going to be lucky 200 times?
I got to watch a lot of people just even on the side because they won't look. And I got a rule, and I tell them, this is not an absolute rule all the time. It's just for my range today, you look the gun into the holster.
When you reholster.
Every single time. I was like, once you get good at that and whatever you want to do on your own time, if you're a police officer and you have to holster while your eyes are on the subject, I understand that stuff. It's not what we're doing today, though. But I encourage that on your own time, however you want to do it. Not on my watch right now. I can't accept that risk, right? We don't know each other that well. I don't know what your skill is, and it's not worth it.
So what's your gym workout look like? Are you a CrossFit dude, weights, cardio? What do you do?
I do a little bit of everything. I try to mix it up. It really, as you probably know, being a man in the wise age of 52 and my late 40s, what my body feels like. I don't feel like I got a plan. I like to do explosive things. I like to do circuits. I like to lift heavy on certain days and do 5 sets of 4 maybe of something. But sometimes that plan don't work out just because my body's like, no, we ain't doing that. So then it just becomes stay mobile. What am I going to do? I'll say my biggest catch-all is just a circuit. I'll say, all right, I'm going to put the kettlebell there. I'm going to do maybe for time, maybe for reps. I'm going to do, I don't know, 20 kettlebell swings. Then I'm going to go over here and do 10 pull-ups. Then I'm going to go run down my driveway or do a farmer's carry. And I'll try to put maybe two circuits of 3 exercises or a full circuit of 6 exercises, depending on how it goes, what I'm doing, what weight I'm using. And I'll do it for time or rounds, right? I like to breathe hard. I like to breathe hard while I'm doing complex, heavier type things, all that together. So it sounds kind of like CrossFit, but it's just not a pure CrossFit workout. Yeah. And I don't, I'll sacrifice technique a little bit, but it's not sacrifice as far as structurally sound stuff. It's just more, is it explosive or am I going to be strict with my reps? You know what I mean? Explosive's different. Like you're being efficient. Strict is I'm trying to work the particular muscle to be tired. So I can curl like this and curl a lot. If I curl like this with my back against the wall, I'm not going to curl that much. So circuit's a big thing, but I try to lift heavy on squat, deadlift, and bench press at least once a week. And I try to get a day in between any intense day. So like maybe like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes that don't work out and it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I teach the jiu-jitsu too. So depending on my class, if I'm teaching, sometimes I'm more involved physically. Sometimes I can't be. So it's depending on the audience, depending on the number of people. So I just flex. And what I've had to realize, it's helped me because I'm the type of person we like the path least resistance. So if I can set a plan and just do the plan, that's easy. So it helped me not to be so strict in like having to be regimented. I'm regimented about doing things. It doesn't have to be that way now, because otherwise I'd just be pissed all the time because I'm like, fuck, I can't do this. Fucked up my plan. And then the family suffers when I'm like that. So it helped me be way more flexible because my body tells me maybe I can do this, maybe I can't. The classes tell me maybe I can do this, maybe I can't. Maybe my wife needed me to do something and I fucking couldn't spend another hour after teaching class to do the workout I wanted to do while I'm at the gym with all the equipment that I like versus my garage. Maybe that tells me I can't do that day, so I got to do it later. Or I got to put it off to tomorrow or something.
You go to a like an actual gym or like a CrossFit gym or?
We had a Planet Fitness because it was near my house. My wife had this, and my kids were going, and she would go because you get like tanning and all this other shit. So I would go with her and do that. So I would do that, but I wasn't strictly there. It's just if I had to go with her, I just go do it there.
Cool.
I don't like that they didn't have free barbells though.
Yeah, pizza though.
Yeah, true. And Tootsie Rolls. But my gym, that Renzo Gracie in Clarksville, spelled Renzo with an R. It's just pronounced Portuguese. The R is like an H. They have a gym area, fitness area, and it has everything you need. Like it's got cool. Free weights, barbells, kettlebells. We got the Jacob's ladder, which I love. The assault bike, I love. All my cardio is done on that stuff because my knees. I had surgery on my knee a while back, and I don't run. I can't run sustained without having a swollen knee all the time. So I got to minimize the impact on that. So I try to get cardio with the fucking machines or those circuits. But so I go there. Mostly when I do lifting weights, it's there, if not my garage. In my garage, I got limited shit. Kettlebell. Kettlebell's a big thing to me. I got 250-pound kettlebells I'll use for almost everything. Put them together, just use one, make it explosive, maybe tie something to it where it's heavier, do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a few other little weights and plates. I got pull-up bar and dip bar at the house. Simple shit.
That's cool, man. You got any other hobbies?
I ain't got time for it besides grappling and working out.
Cool.
Shooting. And I dry fire a lot.
Every night?
Not every night. No, that'd be a lie. Anytime I go to my garage, if I'm lifting weights or just fucking around with something, I dry fire in the garage. And I try to make it a couple times a week. That's what and less is more for me with dry firing. After about 10 minutes, I'm frustrated, and it's diminishing returns for me doing that.
Do you think that's the case with shooting?
Shooting in general?
Well, just like, I mean, we used to get cases of ammo, right? We get 2,500 rounds at 9mm. You could go in and dump 2,500 rounds in a day. But if I went in and shot 50 every day for 10 days, I'm probably better off shooting 50 than 25, you know.
Well, it's all about your approach,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know better now after wasting many years doing trial and error. Not wasting. I mean, I benefited from it. But at the time, I could have done it better.
Mm-hmm.
Just being more intentional. That word right there is huge. Like I can go through the motions of a bunch of shit and not get better, really, if I'm not intentional. So when I go to shoot, I'm very intentional, and when I do dry fire, I'm very intentional. Where's my eyes going? Did I see the dot? Was it there when I pressed that trigger? And it's really simple when you get used to it. Like, some people don't understand how simple it is. But yeah, shooting is, I don't need to shoot that much as long as I'm very intentional about what I'm doing. Like the doubles drill, huge for me. Bang, 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 bang. Am I really looking at getting the information, the data from the target? Am I internally really diagnosing what my eyes are doing, what I'm seeing? Am I reminding myself to keep that grip? The support hand needs to work more, because sometimes I guess people like Ben Stoker and guys that are phenomenal shooters, they've been doing it so long that it truly is, a lot of those pitfalls are built into their system. I've got a pretty good system, but I still feel like sometimes when I get overcome by this amount of information, I'll lack in somewhere else, and I have to remind myself. Like, all right, whoa, I was shooting real fast right there, and my mind was here, my grip started giving a little bit. I wasn't using my support hand as much as I should have. So things like that. I'm very intentional about my eyes and that grip. And the rest of it, usually pretty easy. Like, people talk about trigger finger and all that. Well, if I'm not shooting bullseye accuracy, I don't really care about my trigger finger interaction unless I'm being slow firing, trying to get the perfect fucking group.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm slapping as long as my grip's good, as long as my sight is doing the right thing. I'm target fixated. And just recently I've learned, probably in the last 2 years, I became better at being target fixated or focused despite having a red dot or an iron sight. Like, I'm always looking to where I'm shooting, which self-defense or tactical shooters will tell you that's where you're going to look anyway, right? At the threat. Your physiological effects will overcome you, and you'll look to where the threat is. So all this practice that we're doing is essentially what you're going to do when you're scared as fuck anyway. I just need to know that my gun's going to be in the right spot when I'm looking there. So we're practicing that. Excuse me, I'm spitting. We're off on a tangent, man.
It's all right.
Lead me.
That's all right. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to talk about?
No, we can talk about You know, what's interesting to me is the whole tactical response thing and what this area of Camden is known for.
Mm-hmm.
What I know it for is tactical response, James Yeager, and the whole approach to tactical shooters versus regular shooters, if you wanted to discern between them. I think coming from the military, I had a certain perspective when I first got out that it was skewed, though, because I was thinking like, well, I've got all this stuff, relatively good fundamentals, and that's subjective as well, because military guys that get out that only did military training, they're usually not great at shooting. I don't care what they say. I thought I had good fundamentals, so everything was like, well, we got to add the complexity now, not the individual isolated task. We need a complex task in everything we do, which was wrong. But that was always the goal in the military. You're exposed to this isolated task, or an individual task maybe, and then it turns into a complex, group task, and then you're adding context and you're scenario driven and all that stuff, right? And people think that once I've been exposed to that first thing, like, disregard that and everything's got to be complex now. I think that's wrong as rain. Like, I focus so much on isolated task, and it's made me much better being focused on isolated task. And then, of course, the scenario's got to be in there. Like, you got to know what you're training for and, the nuance of that. So I think it's important to understand, situational awareness. What are red flags or indicators that things might be bad if you don't already know that? Me being a criminal, in my heart, I'm pretty good at being aware of bad situations. But also, what are you going to do? Can't just shoot everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I fight hand to hand. So, well, also, if you're fighting hand to hand and you know how to do a double leg takedown, where's that person's hands when you did the double leg takedown? Can he still stab you, shoot you, etc., even though you've got the better position on him? Well, if you've never done that, right, to some degree, which is beyond isolated task now, then you might have the wrong response. You might not be aware of hands as much as you should be, right? So it is important to do complex tasks, but I say a little bit of complex task here and there sprinkled in, or scenario-driven stuff, context-driven stuff, and more so fundamental things. Always a little, a lot. Once you got a good baseline anyway, the bedrock is built. I just sprinkle a little bit on there, a lot. 10 minutes here and there, dry fire, right? Moving my eyes in my gun, seeing everything. But know what the context of whatever drills you're doing is going to be, and work towards that. Hands kill. My good friend Paul Sharp says that. Hands kill. So if you're doing shit and I'm going to punch you in the face, and your hand's getting that gun out, me even being the big bad Mike Tyson ain't going to matter if you get the gun out and you're able to implement it when I'm preparing to fucking punch you in the face. Right? So you need to be aware of hands. What is your intent? What are you doing with your hands? I can't let you get into your pockets. What are you going to pull out? Right? Some people don't realize those things because you meet people that are great fighters in their context, or great shooters in their context, and they're not thinking about, well, what about all that in between before there's a black and white? It's pretty easy when I know we're fighting.
Yep.
You're fighting. If I know we're shooting, we're shooting. But we know, especially in society that we live in, like, you can't just go from one to the other, right? Navigate so easily. Like, I don't know what the situation might be. So I talk about this like with road rage incidents. Like, people get mad, and I've done it before. I've been fucked up and get mad at somebody and want to get up beside them and let them know that, fuck you, I don't like you. And I've thought about it more. I was like, well, I know what typical citizens may do, typical reactions. But is everybody typical? Does everybody think like me? Maybe that person, it's reasonable to him when he gets somebody shooting a bird at him, it's reasonable to pull his gun and shoot into that other vehicle.
When they do.
And they have.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling the dice if I engage with you like that.
Yeah, de-escalation. But I tell kids, especially my kids and young people, all the time, I go, you might be 100% right. You're at Walmart or whatever, and somebody whips in and takes your parking space, and you get out and you're pissed off about it. You might be 100% right, but you don't know what that dude is prepared to do that day. We can easily.
What are you prepared to do for being right?
Yeah, we can easily just go get another parking space. You might be wrong, but it doesn't matter. You might end up walking crippled the rest of your life in a wheelchair or dead over it.
Exactly.
And if you might be wrong, but if he's willing to kill you over it.
Yeah, and you don't know what he's willing to do.
Yeah, what do you stand to gain, and more importantly, what do you stand to lose by that?
Well, William April, he said, and I hear Paul quoting him all the time, they're not like us. So some people think that.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily, like we talked about people being evil earlier. I don't know if evil is the word, or it's just there's people that fucking don't reason the way that you reason.
Yeah.
Like prison rules in high security prisons, we don't disrespect one another unless we're prepared to do something about it
because
permanently.
Somebody's gonna die over it.
Yeah, there's no posturing. Are we shaking up or not? If not, then let's not look at each other. Let's not posture. Right? In society, though, it's all posturing. It's posturing like crazy, and it's like, and they take it for granted that somebody could act on that, right? Because they think that most people won't.
Yeah.
Like it's usually in high school we learn you bump chest. We're really just dick measuring and seeing are we gonna save some face here? You know, not really trying to do anything.
You do that enough times, you're gonna catch the wrong guy one day.
Yeah, I mean you don't know what's reasonable for him. Maybe he says, you disrespected me. My girlfriend's in the car and you cussed me out even though I took your parking spot.
Yeah,
now I got to shoot you.
You don't know how he's calibrated.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So you got to be aware of that. So warrior class society, like we talked about, you should be ready to deal with consequences, and don't escalate things unless you're prepared to do anything that may happen after that. Deal with anything that may happen after that. I know that sounds like bravado, but I feel like it's just the way things are, really.
Society seems to have changed a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're so far removed from people I know personally can't imagine themselves ever hurting another human being. I've had talks with people like this, and they said, I'm a friend of mine. I won't mention his name, of course. He's a good friend of mine. I love him. He's a good man. He's a good father. He's a good husband. And he and I talked one day, and I got mad at him. And I shouldn't have been mad. I was taken aback because we were talking about our different philosophies, and I love to talk with him. He's got a whole different philosophy than me, and I like it. And he was like, I could never hurt anybody. I don't know. You carry that gun. I don't know. I could have one, but I would never use it. And I was painting scenarios for him. I was like, all right, you're in your house, and these people are going to kill your son or your wife or whatever. And they tell you, they're going to, first they're going to just tie you up. They're saying, we're going to fuck you up, and we're going to rape her in front of you and then kill your son and everything. I was like, you wouldn't kill him? He's like, I don't think I can do it. And I was like, imagine this picture though. I was like, maybe you're not fully imagining this. I'm like, they're gonna rape your wife, maybe rape your son too. They're gonna kill him. They're gonna dismember him in front of you or something. I don't mean the worst of the worst. Could you gather the emotions to lash out at them in some form or fashion? I don't know if he was fucking with me. I don't think he was fucking with me. He was pretty earnest. And he was just like, I couldn't do it. I don't think I could hurt another human being like that. And I'm like, they're going to hurt you. I mean, I know you can deal with emotions later. Like, I get it. I don't want to murder anybody. I don't wish to hurt anybody. To be honest, I really don't. But it's like a choice, It's like you've communicated your intent. And if I see that to be factual and true, like, I have to do something, do I not? I have to. And I was just telling him, I was like, all right, on the other end then. think about how it feels afterwards. Maybe you stayed alive and they did that and you didn't do anything. Could you live with that? Because I feel like that's just as heavy, if not more so. You know, to deal with those emotions. If I couldn't muster up whatever aggression to fight back and I let that happen, I don't know if I could live with that.
No, I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine thinking that even.
I couldn't either. That's why it made me mad. I was wondering if he was just, because he's a good antagonist, good arguer. He's one of those guys, he'll tell you freely. He's like, yeah, sometimes I just want to be devil's advocate. And I thought he was doing that to me. I was like, are you just trying to fucking win the argument somehow? Like, I don't.
Is this a guy that's been in combat that's just decided now that he's
No,
okay.
Never. And
So he's just like a pacifist?
completely. And unfortunately for him, he's had his share of trauma as a child. Like many of us have had subjective or relative trauma, different ways. But it just didn't involve, I don't know, it never clicked in him that he had to be violent for something.
Well, I guess that's fortunate that he hasn't had to.
Yeah.
He's not been presented with that and now have to live with that after the fact.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. I mean, we know there's people like that, but I can't say that I know any of them.
And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Like, what?
It's good that he lives in a world that's different than what we believe this world is, I guess.
Well, and the thing is, too, he's not overly, like, religious type pacifist. He's more just like the world is the Matrix almost. He's the quantum physics type belief. And I don't understand it. I'm like, well, if it's nothing, then why would you have a problem hurting somebody? Like, he's like, well, I just choose not to, because we had this conversation before too. I was like, if you believe that nothing really matters in general, what stops you from being like a serial killer or something? And he's like, because I don't want to. I decide not to. I was like, well, I decide not to feel like a victim after somebody abuses my loved ones or someone that I was going to protect by intervening. And if that intervening means violence, then you have to come to terms with that. Because you're going to feel bad either way. But I would rather protect mine. I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
No.
And again, I'll say, I'm not judging him at all. I love him. I love him. I just don't understand. I can't understand.
I hope the day never comes where that gets tested.
I got mad at him. I told him, I was like, motherfucker. I was like, whatever you believe in life, they're yours. That's your circle. And you protect them. You don't allow them that hurt. Even if you believe that everything is just a part of the Matrix or whatever. Like, they're going to feel it. Your perspective is what counts. And from their perspective, it's going to be painful. And whether you know it or not, it's going to be painful for you too. Right? You have to do something. And I think he, as smart and intelligent as he is, he really can't understand that just because we're different backgrounds, doesn't mean the same thing has to happen. Like, human is human. He's like, well, I'm not a soldier guy like you and all that. It's got nothing to fucking do with that. Like, my background aside, it don't even fucking matter.
Right. Well, somebody's going to die, not him. Whereas you're going to stop that. You might be killed in action trying to stop that, but you're at least going to put forth that effort to end that.
Yeah. I don't feel like there's a choice there, in my opinion.
There's not a choice.
Unless you just don't care about people in general. And I know he cares. So I'm like, yeah.
So what's his plan like in an active shooter? Just to leave?
You don't know. He sometimes just...
What if he can't? What if he's there with his wife and kid and they can't leave? He's just going to abandon them?
He jokes. He's like, they'd be mad at me because I would run or something. I'm like...
Yeah, but what if you're...
I think he's selling himself short.
Yeah, that's an odd one. I don't know, man.
It was a good project as a friendship with he and I. Like, I'm going to fucking make him...
That's a difficult friend.
He is, man, but I appreciate his different perspective. It's just that was something that I just couldn't fathom.
Yeah, you just don't want to take him places where that situation might appear.
I'm just going to take charge. I and I know I try to look at it from different perspectives too, because I am me and I have my experience and I think a certain way, and I don't. Hopefully that doesn't cloud my judgment too much. I just feel like, weak or not, whether I know you can beat me, whether I know that I'm vulnerable in this situation, it doesn't matter. I just got to do it, right? And I guess that's combat in general. Combat, loose term of combat, not just war and soldiers, but just, you got to do something. It doesn't really matter what your philosophy is or your thoughts. Like, I got to do something in this moment. I got to go forward.
Yeah, round of gunfire.
I don't know. I don't think he's thought about it much before, because his perception of life is one of so far removed from violence. And I've been around violence since I was a kid. Either me doing it or being done to me. And it does make you a better soldier, in my opinion, as far as the black and white part goes.
So you have kids?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man.
And we still got to get to the bottom of it. I just thought it was perplexing to me, to say the least.
Well, maybe the conversation will go very differently. Maybe that seed's been planted and he's realized.
I'd like to get him, and if he's interested, and do like a scenario with him and kind of invoke some emotion. Not fuck with him, not do a prank or anything like that. I wouldn't do that. But some kind of a realistic scenario, some close to real training.
Some force-on-force stuff or something, scenario-driven.
Yeah, just to invoke emotion and see, just open his eyes a little bit, because he swears I'm not a fighter. And I was like, brother, everybody's a fucking fighter. Like, I don't care what your training is. Stop labeling yourself, for one. Like, you might not be a hobbyist like I am for these certain things, but you're fucking human. You're born to fucking fight.
They do a class over here at TAC Response called The Fight, and it's scenario-based, shoot, don't shoot, with several
I heard about that. I thought it was
simulations,
interesting.
Yeah, and you don't know, situation to situation, which one of those people is actually going to shoot you. You have no idea, and the emotions that come out of that.
I seen one video about it, I think. Maybe it was that one or something similar. I think it was a guy reviewing it, maybe, and he talked about going into, like, it was supposed to be a bar situation,
That's
just
it.
an open room.
Yep.
And people starting shit, and one guy did real well. It was like, he never took the bait, because some people, there is a skewed perspective there, and it kind of gets in the way of training. It's like, people know that I'm in a course, so they're thinking shoot, and you're always like, nobody's told you to fucking shoot. So remember that. Just because we're in a gun course or whatever the hell you want to call it, don't mean you shoot. It means you make the right decision for the circumstances that you find yourself in. But I seen one guy on there, I think he fucking eventually, he just accepted whatever posturing was going on and fucking made his way safer and safer until he was removed. And that was anticlimactic, I guess, for maybe what some people want to see, but probably the right thing, yeah. And then sometimes you're in a situation where you can't avoid it.
Yeah, or it's the little kid that kills you. Like, you don't know. I mean, there's an ATM, there's a bar, there's a bathroom, there's several of them, and it's my kids have taken. My wife has taken those classes, and yeah, man.
I think that's valuable, even if somebody that doesn't have fundamentals of shooting, especially if you're doing force on force, where there's less risk involved, right? It's not live ammo. Like, at least to kind of start at the end and work your way backwards. Like, this is why you should have training, because it's not always clear and concise. Or you could see you missed the guy when you shot, or you could see you wasn't paying attention to indicators, or you can see where you got kind of heated there when you didn't necessarily need to go back and forth with this person, engage with them, right? Or you fucking, just things like that kind of open your eyes, like a little shock value to fucking make you a believer. I kind of do that in my classes. On a lot of them, I start with a cold start on every class. Not to fuck with anybody, but just to make them, let's see what you got. And it's simple, like pistol one, load your gun, pull it out of the holster, load your gun in a way that I like them to load it a certain way administratively, right? Not an emergency load of any sort, right? And then draw it, shoot 5 rounds as good as you can at this thing. And I read a lot from that. It's a cold start, not a big test. It's just giving me more information than you, right? But they say, and then if they fuck it all up and they're all shaky, and I'm like, well, it is what it is. That's what you got. Fine. It ain't got to be better as good as him. It's just got to be, let me see what you got, and we know where you're at, and that's what you did right there. And this is relatively low stress for what we would intend to use the gun for versus that, right? So if you can't do it with just me watching, and I guess that is some stress, people watching you. It's embarrassing is not good. It's not calming, right? But if you do it under this relative low amount of stress, what are you going to do when somebody's trying to hurt you? Like, you think it's going to get better?
Right.
Like, we know it's not. It's regular verbiage used by trainers, I think. You're going to fall to your lowest level of training.
Yep.
But I use that kind of like to open their eyes right off the bat. Like, let's just fucking see what it is and be truthful with ourselves right now. And now once we're done through that, all right, then let's start from the bottom up. So like that, a situation like that where you go and see a scenario, I think that'd be great. Like, kind of open your eyes, like, bro, that's kind of made me think, makes the wheels turn.
Also, they have them go through, and call 911. What do you say to that dispatcher if you're calling for medical assistance, or it's not I shot somebody, there has been a shooting? Like, anything you say will be used. If you shoot somebody where justified or not, you're still going to jail.
Right.
Like, that's going to be a long fight. So don't arm them with any ammunition to use against yourself.
And maybe, if one of your people are shot or you're shot, you don't want to slow up the response to that situation if it's not a reason to do that, right?
Yep.
Like we talk about at the range, if something happens and there's an accident, don't say there's a shooting out here, even if it was a gun that caused the accident, because now the scene's got to be secure before they fucking, and now we're prolonging our response to the casualty.
Yep.
Unless there is a shooting. And I tell people, like, if there's a shooting maliciously, we all got guns,
yeah,
right?
there's going to be another one too.
We're going to eliminate the malicious actor.
Yeah.
All right. So it should take care of itself.
Well, awesome, man. What's your where do people get a hold of you at?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming down. Brandle's a great person. I love Brandle, and he speaks highly of you. And though we never met besides online talking, I respect what you're doing. I think you got a great thing going here, especially now seeing it in person. And it's good to, like we talked about earlier, off the mic, I think. Even different philosophies, different approaches, different cliques maybe, right? If we're all really concerned about citizens being strong American citizens that can do good for our country, be good for our community, I think it's better that we talk to one another versus, being cliquey and high schooly with each other, as some people like to do. So it's good to, no matter what, like, I want to know what's good, man, and different from me. I don't know everything, so I like to meet as many people. So it's good meeting you and actually getting to know someone that is relatively close and kind of in the same industry. This
Dude,
industry,
we're an hour apart. I want to know everybody.
I agree with that. Some people's against that. They want to stay.
Right, but we're running out of time, man. Yeah. Imagine 10 years ago if we had known each other. What other where would we be right now in this conversation, or business-wise? We could have introduced other people together that we're an hour apart. I'm in Clarksville all the time.
Now that I know, we'll get together there. But yeah, and I think everybody should, no matter if you're the younger group, the older group, the military group, the civilian group, the performance, tactical, bro, we can learn.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to be against each other, even if it's different.
Yeah,
so,
I don't care if you use different gear I didn't make. It doesn't matter, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we're starting something here. We're ending racism. We're ending.
That's right, because you're Asian.
Because I'm Asian. You thought I was Asian. But InstructorZ.com, Instructor Z on all the major social media sites. Probably you're not gonna come to me and get a consistent input of different lessons and whatnot online. I prefer to talk to you in person. But I'm somewhat of a character, whether you like it or not. And I promise to always try to be genuine with whatever you see of me. I promise. Might not always be that way, but I promise to always try.
That's what I tell guys every night. I go, they're like, man, I really like what you're saying. I'm like, stick around. I'll say something you don't like. I go, but I promise you at the end of the conversation, you're going to know what I thought.
Yeah. And,
We might not always agree, but you're going to know.
I think in our old age, we start to relish more. We see the value of seeing things for what they are versus seeing something that agrees with me or is what I like to see. I want to see what it is, good or bad, indifferent. I just want to see what it is, and if you let me know who you are, I respect that. All right, we all working on something. We're all shitheads just trying to get better, I think.
Imagine we used to think something when you're 20, and then you kind of like, well, maybe that's not what it was when you're 30, and then by the time you're 40, you're like, man, that was complete bullshit. So if we could take that lesson and teach that and instill that into younger people so that they can discern that sooner, maybe things would change.
Yeah. We just be open-minded, man. Like, you don't know every fucking thing. If you think you do, red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag.
Yep.
All
Well,
right.
dude,
It
thank
was
you
great,
for your time,
Yeah,
man. I
thank you,
appreciate
brother.
you.
Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, man.
I built this thing from the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your ass I fulfill it. Yeah, man, I'm talking about realest, one of the realest to try.